way live on YouTube. Let's see. Go live. Testing, testing, testing. Mic test. As usual. I think the everything is live now. Uh, what's up, world? Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, depending on place and time you're viewing this. It's yours true, Mr. Victory, and I'm back to bring balance. The topics of today is on the board, you know, and I'm inviting all friends and family. It's about time we shared to our friends and family so they know that I am live to, discuss the topic of today. And the topic of today, which follows suits with Westernization, is the topic of today. But last week we were talking about Arabization, the Arabization of the world, and Islam was the topic of last week. And today is Westernization, the top tier ideology behind colonization and any Western ideology. Now, with that said, let's see if we can invite a few friends and family members so our frequent flyers will join the live so we can have the discussions of today and whilst we have the talk that we usually have. Bear with me. It takes time to get the TikTok live going. Since I'm streaming on multiple platforms, sometimes it takes time to, get it going. So be mindful whilst we get things ready and people join and so on. Let's see. Mic test, mic test. Now I'm using separate mics actually for my, how will I call it? TikTok and for my YouTube so that I'm heard evenly across the platforms and there is no, how will I say it? There's no latency in the topics or in the microphone that everything is continuously spoken. Everyone can hear me nice. Last week we were complaining about the microphone in on YouTube, saying it may be too low. So yes, I see, and now I am doing better to use mics. So I have one dedicated microphone for YouTube, and I have one dedicated microphone um, that I can have conversations simultaneously, and we know differences in the volume. The topic on the board, as you people can see, is the birth of civilization or uh, Westernization. Uh, Westernization was the idea behind Westernization was what birthed colonialism, and we'll dive deep into it. But topics on the board, the four nominated topics: can people consume culture without losing identity? That's the first one. Second is, can a society modernize without becoming westernized? Is the second one that we'll tackle as the live goes on. The third is, can education ever be neutral when it's imposed by colonizers? It's one that I will spend the majority of the time talking about education and doctrines. Then the fourth one, it says, what's one Western product or idea you cannot live without? I think that one is gonna spark a nice argument, and hopefully it can trigger a reflective argument where people can reflect on their own experiences and wanting to share their experiences, and people are honest and so on. But those of you watching the TikTok live and the YouTube, do like and share and comment, and do invite people, and don't be afraid to participate in the live uh, in any way, shape, or form. Okay, so Westernization is one thing that has plagued the world for the longest of time, and I think modern society is at the pinnacle of what Western civilization is. We are at the end game of the final finished product of what those who dreamt of colonizing the world and pushing Western ideologies are, where the Western influenced is the one that dominates across the globe, and that's what we can see. We can see it in Africa, we can see it in Asia, we can see it in Europe itself, where Europeans themselves had to split at a certain given time to form a new world. That's how the which I hate this term, the discovery of America came to be, where British people who didn't like the ideas that the call it old school Brits had, they decided to then split from them and discover a new world and create their colony and then evolve from there where they can have their own dominion of themselves and do things with impunity. So so it started with the discovery of the new lands, which is now known as America. I hope YouTube can hear me, people. I hope people in the YouTube can hear me. Um, but do let me know if my mic should drop in YouTube or on the TikTok. It's crucial that I do here. So that's when it started. You know, the discovery of America. Then it follows suits of the, as we'll say, the Spaniards or the Portuguese. Their expansion towards the what we know as Southern America, because we do have North America, which is modern day America or the United States of America, and Canada. Then you have South America, what people usually see it as, Brazil, Mexico, and so on. So yeah, that was then. And people, mind you, people lived in those areas prior to the discovery of Columbus, Christopher Columbus, in 1492. That was when he sought out to uh, westernize the world. But you have to understand that prior to those movements or those pivotal moments in human history, the Europeans themselves had what many considers as internal colonization, where, let's say, even though the Greek didn't see themselves as white at that time, they had their own form of internal colonization, where the Roman influence was one that pushed upon other Europeans or other white people at that time. So you have influence through the it says, one of the common historian do not attribute racism to come. If Jesus something praise, if you want to participate in the live, you are free to do and express your view. So yeah, they didn't see themselves as white then. Okay, thank you for confirming on YouTube. Yes, I see it now. Yeah, you can hear me perfect. Thank you. So yeah, that was when the Romans went out and spread Roman rule. Then you find things like the Catholic Church wanting to spread that, let's say, that Catholic influence, where you have things like the Crusades, where when the white people went out pushing Western religion upon other people, and then it created wars that we are yet to recover from. So those were the starting points of it. But when Europeans find some kind of union within themselves, and hence the Berlin Conference in 1844, I hope I'm not wrong. Yeah, the Berlin Conference around that era. Uh, Hello, Mystic.
Hello, hello. Long time no see.
Long time no see. How do you do?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm also fine. I'm I'm back at it.
Oh,
We skipped last week and we are back at it this week. And yeah, we're trying to have a topic about Westernization. The is one that I've yet to have like in depth because last week was Arabization. The but you didn't show up. So we spoke about Arabization. The spread of Arabic culture and Arabic influences and so on. Now we're speaking about Westernization, the spread of Western culture and influence.
all right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm really busy. I just I'm the rice arbeit. Did you know rice arbeit?
Rice isn't like I don't think I know. No.
It's like you travel to work for 4 or 5 weeks without
Without
like
coming home.
work 12 hours.
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't have time anything. Like you just eat and sleep and then get up and work.
I see. I see. It's
Uh,
part of life and needs
yeah.
to happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we are now in like vacation three
Vacation.
four
Yeah.
days, and then we will return. Yeah.
Back to what I'm saying. So we came to a point where we have what we call the civilization mission, where Westerners decided that it is their God-given right to go out and civilize the world, where they meant that the world wasn't civilized enough, so it was their God-given right to do so. And you have the events in India where they went out to Anglia to make them English speaking, if I say, to anglicize them, you know and that was what happened in the India, and today we see the effects of it. That led to the split of India and Pakistan, even though they were the same people. So they were splitted through the lines of religion and so on. So you
Think
see
you
the
think they
effects.
are the same people?
They are the same people.
Are you sure about that?
They are very similar in relations. Yes, the same way as West Africans are very similar in relations. Yeah. So yeah, they are the same to anglicize the world, and that was what led to the spread of what we have as modern day colonization, slave trade, and so on. That the Western ideology. So what made Westernization dangerous was the ideology behind that everyone had to become Western, that you had to become like them. It wasn't enough to be who you are and traded with them. No, you had to speak their language. You had to celebrate um, their culture. You had to spread everything that was white or Western and do away with yours. And that is why we see many societies today have what maybe we call inferiority complex or inferiority problems, where in places like India and other South Africa we have people bleaching their skins to look whiter. You see people wearing, let's say, wigs and so on to look more Western. You see people talking a certain way, to appeal to a certain audience, and that is the how do you call it, the effect of Westernization. But then I'll ask you, Mystic, have you ever been affected by this ideology?
Um, not really. The thing is that I don't really fan of their ideologies. Like, for example, I live in Norway now almost 10 years now,
Hmm.
and I have never read any newspaper or part of this ideology system to have like ambition to back up or to support one, or like I have never been part of it because in the first place it doesn't affect me and doesn't like it. So I have nothing to do. I just
Are
do
you
my own
saying
self.
you haven't been affected by Westernization, the ideology behind Westernization? For
No,
example,
I
in terms of religion,
what
language, school, work, or anything.
Okay, look, the word, the language like that, the integration, so on, is I think it helps me to work, to find work, to like to live with them. If I cannot speak, then I obviously will be like homeless, and I don't see it as a problem. I see it as a part of life. In order to come to the
You don't see
level up, and
Westernization
then
as a problem, but a part of life.
the language, I don't think is a problem for me. I don't know. Because I have to work, then I have to find job, I have to speak with them.
Will you like, let's say, because you are from Tigray, right?
Yeah,
Imagine the Tigrayan people stopped speaking Tigringa and spoke only English. What will you feel about it
within integrate,
within Tigray?
I will like declare this is extermination.
Uh-huh. So because I don't think you understand this question earlier, you know, because in the parts of the world you find people speaking languages. Like I speak English now because it wasn't done by my own volition. It was forced, that when you went to school they only taught English. You had no choice. It was English or nothing. And they beat you into submission. I remember we went to school, we were beaten, to learn the English. We were forbidden to speak our native tongue, in the schools. It was called vernacular. That means if you were caught speaking your own language, trouble for you.
It's not just trouble. It's like a very like it's between death and life. It's not even a problem. It's much worse. It actually happened in Tigray when the Shua, the Ethiopian Center Empire, declared non-Tigrinya speaking in Tigray only have to be spoken in Tigrinya in Amharic. Then we form that that the forces that call Force Wayane, which is like a forces that declares for self-determination, that ideology, and we fought like more than 100 years for to free to be spoken in Tigrinya and to live in separate from that empire.
It is bold of the people that did so, but when it comes to, let's say, the francophone speaking Africans, people who were colonized by the French, the Portuguese, the English, I feel like the ideology behind and the masterminds behind those who colonized them were too great, that the effect is almost, and I can say it without any doubt, is everlasting. That effect of colonization is one that will last forever. Am I wrong or am I right in the statement that I just made?
Not necessarily. Look, I see many African countries that speak English and French as official language. I see them from the Tigrayan perspective as, in the first place, maybe they don't have language like written language. That's how I see them.
Hmm.
Because of that, they are now have to adapt the Western's a colony language in order to factionalize as a state. So I see it like that. For example, there's a country called Djibouti,
Yeah.
and that's a small country that have been colonized by multiple European countries, especially by France. And then when they gain independent, they just adopt the French as official language, even though they can speak Afar African language or Somali, but they don't do it. So they declare us like as French.
it, it- it's with intent, and I say it this way. Many African countries will claim they have gained independence, but I always say this, that no post, I'll say, colonial state actually gained independence. The independence was given to you, you know and I always say people neglect to see the difference, that okay, you fighting for independence through sweat and blood and conquering, achieving, is one thing, but you go to the polls and then make a referendum, or you vote for it. That means you haven't gained your freedom, it was given to you. Because one thing that is evident, that all the African nations that gained their freedom in the 50s and so on, you can see that the leaders who helped, or the pioneers of that freedom, were dealt with shortly after. And those people became non-existent, because you have to understand the idea was to give them an inch of victory so that the face of colonization would change, which became what we have it as imperialism, which Dr. Kwame Nkrumah put it beautifully in his book. The final stage of colonization is imperialism, and as he said, it is the most dangerous state. So dangerous that places like Burkina Faso now are facing what they are facing now. Places like Haiti is in shambles. Places like Somalia, will never recover from these things, because of it is their turmoil is beneficial to the westernizer or the colonizer.
Um, yeah, like country like Mali, for example. Uh, the problem is this that this country, for example, Somalia, it shouldn't be like a problem, even though they similar and very um, cultural and linguistically and religiously, but these people have been also turned into different ruler by the British and Italian. After they leave them, they just began to like becoming enemy each other. I think I see that the colony is not because of the direct um, impact of the colony. The problem becomes more obvious when they leave it. When they just leave, hey, you see your land, this border, and have a nice day. Then the problem began that much worse in the first place. So. Whatever the moment they step on in this country, in African country, is began the major problem, and then when they leave it, still becomes essential part of the society is problematic. Like it will never be like improve. I don't think I don't see anything like improvement. Even if those colony leave them completely alone, this country have been affected by very part of this colony for a long time, and it's like they've been traumatized. Even if you bring one like a very good leaders among of this nation, that person, that individual is traumatized, so he cannot be free man, and
Mm.
and and, and he will become like a dictator, and he will send his ambassador to the westerns to his colony to beg money.
I understand
You know
what you're
that.
saying. I understand what you're saying. Hello, Purpose. I see you. How are you doing?
Hey, I'm good, thank you. How you doing?
I'm also fine. Thank you very much.
Hi, Mystic.
Hello, hello.
Yeah, we're having topic of westernization. Last week was, Arabization, so I think it follows suits to speak on the worst of them worse,
Hmm.
westernization, and to have it clarified, and we spoke about it. But yeah, Mystic, what you were saying is true. I do agree with you in terms that African leaders and African people are too traumatized to function outside. And the reason is this: for any African nation, to be able to function, and to function, let's say, at a survival mode, we have to do away with everything that came with the colonizers. But here is the thing, and this is why I think the colonizers packaged the ideology around colonization and westernization so beautiful, that it was multi-layered. So even if you clear one stage, there's a second stage, there's a third stage, there's a fourth stage. So either way, unless you do away with everything, you will still, there's a trap for you. So if you escape the first trap, there's a second, a third, and a fourth trap to, catch you, if you should be able to escape. So for example, we say this, that many African people can say, I'm willing to do away with everything that came with the colonizer, but are not willing to do away with the colonizer's religion. Okay, and I always say this, that the religion is part of the problem. Okay, the reason why the religion is part of the problem is this: the way Christianity was introduced to Africans was never introduced to Africans to help Africans. It was introduced and taught, and Africans were indoctrinated in a way where they are forever bound to that religion. Okay, especially people who made it to the Americas who became then enslaved. You can see their attitude towards religion and people wanting to leave. For example, oh, you're going to hell. It's like they are quick to judge or to banish someone to hell, and that's how they've been taught to be Christians. You see, so even if Christianity should be true or not, the way it was taught to Africans is wrong, and therefore I'm bringing up somebody, and therefore you have to do away with all the aspects of this ideology. Hello to, how should I refer to you as? Uh,
Hi, I'm 91.
91, 91. Okay, hello 91. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to you.
Good,
Now,
good evening, good afternoon, good morning.
the problem you are trying to find is you cannot remove every pieces of religion, including Islam and Christian, from Africa. It's too late now. It's too late. You can't remove. It's impossible. It's basically impossible. But how can you minimize the religion impact on the people, and how can you be free from um, the colonizers mentality?
You want to know something? This is a very interesting conversation, right? Because, for example, my mom's Ethiopian, right? And like, how do I feel? I've been feeling this way about like way that some people from other countries assimilate into the American normalities, especially when it comes to dating. You're starting to see a lot of degeneracy from America spill out into other cultures. Like things that have been normalized here, it's starting to spread, like the degenerate parts. You know what I mean? Single motherhood. You know what I mean? Like, that's just a prime example. You know, we believe in marriage. Now casual dating, casual, smexing around has become so normalized, so I'll sit back and listen. I'm sorry.
No, no, it's true. Your opinions are welcome, and all of those things. I always say this in life, and this is the first time. It's like I'm always skeptical when the world, as the global hegemon, right? When we normalize and denormalize behavioral things, that, for example, slavery at a point in human history was a normal thing. Then all of a sudden it was denormalized. All of a sudden, no, you couldn't own slaves. It was the worst thing you could ever do. Then something else has to take its place. So I'm always skeptical when people pivot uh, to those ideologies, especially when you're talking about marriage thing. I was speaking about this just yesterday about, let's say now, people who do marriage want to have a traditional wedding and a Western wedding, right? Or a Western style wedding or Christian wedding is, in some put it that way. And I always say this: traditional wedding in its form in itself is a full package wedding. It's a done deal. Having a Western wedding in many cases nullifies the traditional wedding. So you can have both. It's either the one or the other. You
Yeah,
know?
and another thing is that like when black people were taken from Africa to like the Americas, right? What happened to them was they were stripped of like their culture, their identity, their tribe, their language, their religions, et cetera, right? So what they know now is not their fault because it's kind of like they had been suppressed of what really makes them African for real, and they had to assimilate into these Western European ways of doing things, and there's some pros and cons to Western, right? Not
I,
everything is
I,
bad. Some things are good, but I
I
just feel like
agree.
for us as Africans, it's like a double sword. You know what I mean? We start to become them in a way, like enslaved. I don't know how to put it into words, but I guess you
I
could
know
put
what
two
you
and
mean,
two
but
together.
listen, as people who were taken, for example, having to deal or create new cultures after what they have, That I understand. But I'm talking people back in the motherland, in the continent, where you have your own culture, but now you are, as you say, importing behaviors and how you call traditions that have no business. And now you are watering down what the culture that you have. So now you are doing the colonizers' work for them. That now people do not see, let's say, traditional wedding as inferior, but Western wedding to be what is. And I was telling this person that, listen, I for one, it's either the one or the other, but I'm not gonna give my woman both, because they are both full packages. So you can have two, you can't serve two masters. It's only one or the other, and that's that. And people hate me for it because they call me I'm old-fashioned and I'm Western. I say no, I respect culture in a way where if you want to have one thing else, then you can have that, but you can't mix and water it down. You devalue the influence of culture when you do those things. But purpose, have you experienced these pivotal moments in South African culture where, for example, you see that people are importing ideologies that usually didn't have, how to call it, foundation or don't have grounding in the South African, or the Xhosa, or the Zulu tribe?
Well, you need to understand the structure of South Africa in itself as a country. You know the kind of people that we have there. I don't want to start mentioning people's names or races, but we have a lot of different people in South Africa, unfortunately. And the black people of South Africa, a bit more far removed, and it's those that live in rural South Africa. Those are a bit still practicing a little of their culture, and some will remain a bit protected, just remain protected. But otherwise, everything is with a view of social media coming into play now. uh, Everybody wants to be modern. Everyone wants to be a baddie. Everyone wants to be this. Everyone wants to be trendy and cool. And hence, you see the erasure of the African identity. And also, we've never really just generally had something to call our own. We do have our own thing, but in terms of language, we're taught in English across the board, but we have our languages as subsets in school taught. But like this is at a small scale. We're not taught chemistry in Titswana. We're not taught physics in Pedi. So these things, there's a lot of yeah, there's a bit of nuance to it. But we've just as Africans in general, there's a mix of a plot being mixed up here, and yeah, the damage has somehow been done, and maybe to undo it would take a lot of time because our people on the continent generally as a whole do not, everybody wants to be better than the other person. Nobody wants to listen to the other. Nobody wants to learn,
Yeah,
and hence this bit.
what is true, but what many people fail to understand is that the plot that the Westerners, let's say, implemented in India was done in Africa, was the same one they did in Africa and Americas. So it's like when we have, let's say, diaspora wars amongst each other, and thinking that the one is better than the other. But it's like here we are measuring good, evil, like this is lesser evil, and so on. But do people and the people on the panel and people listening, do you think it's about time we start being, how will I say it, hard on watering down culture? That we maintain it as it is, or it is okay for it to be modernized in the air quotes and being influenced by other culture? And you can go first, nine, if you please.
I feel like there are some good things, like I said, from Western culture. I like the
Can you
fact
name
that
a few?
women women have a little bit more rights, because some places in this world there's still women that can get beat on. I don't know how to put that into proper terms. Get DV. You know what DV stands for, right? They can get into a DV situation. They don't have any rights to protect themselves or do something about it, through the courts or through law. There's a lot of countries where women still can't go to school, or get treated like human beings. In terms of that, I fully agree with the way the Western world has given those rights to women. You know.
I will say it this way, that I don't agree. I think, let's say, many African society had better rights for women than Europeans. Europeans recently gave rights to their women recently, during, let's say, the Industrial Revolution, or Second World War, as in like 60 or 100 years ago, that women were allowed to vote. Other than that, women were classified as second-class citizens in Europe. So,
Yeah.
yeah, so just because, when Europeans, and I said this earlier, when normalization, denormalization of behavior. So Europeans normalized their women being part of society because they wanted to be seen as better than, let's say, what the Muslim did. That, look at how oppressive they are towards their women. But look at how we liberate our women. Look how free they are. But mind you, prior to those freedom, women couldn't go out wearing bikinis and so on. It was frowned upon. You know, and
I
and
don't know. I have to push back because I mean, I'm not on the continent. I grew up in New York. I don't know all the politics of certain things, but I'm always hearing from other panels, oh, we can't do certain things when it comes to that topic in certain places in Africa, not just Africa. I'm thinking Asia. I'm thinking big, when we talking about this, you know what I mean? A lot of countries, women still do not have basic human rights.
and
And
I'm
that is a
telling you,
fact.
most women don't have basic human rights in many African countries because of the colonial history. Because colonial history was the reason why we have gender roles in many African tribes. And I say tribes, but I mean nations. It was more matriarchal, whatever they call it. Okay, the matriarchy was more prominent, that women actually had more to say in society. But then when you fast forward to modern day standards, the fuck? Where in African society, sorry for the language, people, TikTok and YouTube, I know we're streaming to them. So when you fast forward to modern day society, where the Bible has given a man, for example, that right to be the head of the family, many African men believe that they have the God-given right to determine how a woman should be in society. But in prior to that, women had their role and their place in society. You couldn't go out and tell your grandmother what to do. Are you mad? you know
I'm talking more in terms of like now, there's no rights for certain women in certain countries. Like child marriage still exists. Some, female we can't say that.
yeah,
You
yeah.
know what I mean? Like that's what
FGMs,
I'm talking in
FGMs, I think
terms
that's what
of.
it's called, the short terms. Yeah, that is true. And mind you, these are the influence or the aftermath of colonization and Arabization, and the influence of religion in the global south. And that's why we have these topics, to understand how and why we are doing the things. Let me see what's going on topics.
But in
Uh,
terms of like, you know, preserving your culture or your upbringing, I'm very for that too. Just because you live somewhere doesn't mean you have to assimilate into the normalities of where you live. Because once you do that, right, you remove yourself from your culture. You know what I mean? Like you assimilate, you forget who you are, you forget your languages, you forget your upbringing, your beliefs. You know what I mean? Like, and I don't believe in that. I believe that you can still live in the Western world and still exist as a person from where you come from. Like there can be a balance. You know.
I do agree, but then let's say okay, I'm just checking the comments in the YouTube too. So when it comes to this, for us who are from the continent where a Mystic can answer, where we've implemented Western ideologies in our societies, is it about time where we remove those things and put back what used to be, or we should just leave it as it is? You want to try that one, Mystique, or you want to, or Purpose want to
No,
go? Okay.
I was saying that those religion uh, affiliation among all African countries right now it's impossible to remove and then implement new ideas on or religion. It's never gonna happen. The only way we can deal with religion is to become like the Western now, because now the religion is dying in this westernized world. So to minimize it in its impact, then uh, we can have balance with politics and religion, and at the same time and become more sufficient and independent rather than just begging the Westerns um, their ideologies, their technologies, their everything, what they have left. I just want to be like more independent in economics, in militaries, in everything. So, so if we cannot like remove, what I'm saying is we cannot remove religion at all. It's impossible. The way I see it in African country, especially when it comes about to Christianity and Islam.
Yeah, I agree with you. The fact that we can't move it because it's so engraved in our societies that it's almost impossible. Or it's impossible to do. But the aspects of society in which has been in, I mean, we have foreign influence, has been engraved in it. You know, it's possible. I for one believe it's possible, but that's not the topic of today. But should we, let's say, okay, for example, let me break it down. Okay, beauty standards is one thing that has plagued many post-colonial nations for a while. You know, for Africans, you have lighter skin, or people who are darker skin, you have those that lighter skin complex, where if you have a lighter skin, you are seen as more beautiful. If you have European presenting features, wow, you are excellent. Then the concept of straight hair. Are we at a point where we say that we are going to make a referendum where we are going to ban Western beauty standards from our media? That means if you are a news presenter, you are prohibited from wearing wigs. You know, you have to use your natural hair. Are we at that point?
Look, in my like used to be in Ethiopia,
Hmm.
in the Ethiopian ruling class, there is a saying that says, if you are light skinned, you are like in high class. You see very valuable person. But if you are dark skinned, they call you baria. Baria is basically means slave, but
Hmm.
black slave.
Yes.
But the problem, this has become more prevalent, like more appear in the 16th, 18th century, mostly because of the Ethiopian cooperation between the European colony in Africa. But here's the thing, I look, my hair is like very like
Curly.
uh, not naturally, like very flat.
Hmm.
It's like the Asian like style, but I can't change anything. One thing that I see is because we are like mixed race. Basically, we are Afro-Asiatic, Semitic speaking society in Horn Africa. What we call the by the Arabic word we call the Habesha society. But then we are also African because we're in the African highland. But there within this society there is also very discriminatory, like against the black, especially like African origin, like very dark skin. We call them like as I said, barrier.
Hmm. People like
And
me,
this,
basically.
yeah, basically, yeah.
Yeah.
And then this being implemented not because of this society, but because of the colony that been imposed on us by the
And I get it.
Italian.
And sorry to cut you off, but I'm saying, and I don't know if anyone want to try and answer the question. The question is, are we at a point in time as a group of people where we say at this point we are going to prohibit the usage of Western beauty standards in our spaces? So, for example, in the news space, you are prohibited from wearing wigs, for example, or people who hold public offices, let's say in Ghana, for example, where our lawyers are still wearing those hideous wigs from where the Europeans or the British introduced in our court systems. Are we at the point where we are going to ban those things and do things our own way? I don't know if Purpose want to try this one to
Well,
answer.
I honestly don't know if we are. Are we doing anything about it? I don't think the laws currently or anybody speaking about this. Even I think it was that on ground level would be ideal. If the politicians are not speaking about this, perhaps maybe the influencers on the ground could probably speak about it and promote being dark skin and being of fair dark skin, and it's okay to be who you are. It's fine to be you're beautiful as you are as a person, and preaching more acceptance in society. First, that's where we would start off. I would say. If it's not there, then I think it's a problem already because there's not so much preaching of it. There's currently they're preaching Nicki Minaj and big things behind you and all this, this type of lifestyle. So I think we need to dial down from social media to begin with and stop looking at America. I think that's where the ground. I think that will be a good starting point.
Mm. I for one think it's about high. We are at the point and maybe overdue when it comes to creating a African beauty standard to be the hegemon of our, how do you call it, public spaces. That if you are in holding public office, you should not wear wigs. You should not wear suit and tie. You should wear what is native to you. In many spaces in Ghana, for example, what is considered as traditional wear is you wear it on Fridays. That what is ours is minimized to one day of the week, but what is Western is like every day, every other day. So it's about time we say, listen, if you're going to work in public spaces, presidents, ministers, news anchors, and whatever, these are the requirements. Because we have to promote what is African, what is Indian, if people say it, and other people who have been colonized too, not only Africans, that you have to push so that you can do away with the Western influence. Because if you don't do it, then we are going to be lost forever. And now we are getting to the point where it's becoming irreversible.
Can I say something? I think that some of this Arabic stuff can go too, honestly, because they
I
have
agree.
oppressed our people, enslaved our people. I can't never, no offense to anybody that's Muslim, right? I still can't to this day make sense of why anybody would want to be a part of those people who uh hate you so strongly. So I don't think Europeans should be just blamed alone. That's what I'm getting at.
Yeah, we had the Arabic topic last week. It's on YouTube for those who want to view it. So we've had that one. But I do agree that Arabization too is a problem in itself because it promotes the influence of Arab culture over everything. That thank you for choosing my religion or being part of my religion, and that's more of it than anything. But I see Ben and U.S. How do you call it? The other shall reply to you,
Yeah,
Smith, Humble Smith.
good. Yeah, how you doing? Good morning.
Hey, what's up?
Hello, Ben. Welcome again.
Yeah,
Let's start with Ben. I think you have been here the longest. How do you want to participate in the live? Or if there's anything you wanted to say?
So I'm thinking of what I mean, I guess this conversation about cultures and feels a lot like another version of war to which we are saying like the Arabs influence our people, the Europeans influence our people, and we have our own identity, and it feels like another version of just war. And I'm not sure if it's like conducive to anything because it just, yeah, I'm not sure that like having these debates on culture is really like getting to the root problem of the issues that we have
How so?
because it becomes just another abstraction of another war. It's like, so like they're gonna like we have a live right here about this idea of culture and the effects it has on one group of people, and then I'll go to another live, and then it'll be the idea of structural societies like communism versus capitalism and their effects on people. And then I'll go to another live, and then it'll go into like religion and saying like God versus Allah or and it kind of gets to a point where, and then I'll go to another live and it's like, men have affected the world, women are oppressed, and women need this, and the problem is men and women. So what I'm noticing, especially like on TikTok, is there's always some type of kind of like debate and like kind of fight with any type of field. And I'm like coming to a point where I'm trying to see if it like it all like kind of becomes the same thing. I don't know if I'm like making sense.
I see what you're saying, but you have to understand the fact that we have to deconstruct and decolonize our mind is a necessary one. And sometimes it is hard for us to do the work. But let me tell you one thing. In order for us to achieve an African, they call it, identity that is free of Western influence, we have to, how will I say, slap a few Africans to bring them along with us. You know, it's not one thing that is gonna happen. Yeah, it's true. It's not one thing that's
You're
gonna.
right.
It's not one thing that's gonna happen through you sharing pamphlets, because you have to understand it was through sweat and blood that shaped Africans into what we are today. So it is only through sweat and blood that you can reshape and reforge Africa into what they are to be.
But is that true though? Because
It is
if
true.
it becomes because if it becomes another war of like, okay, you have to slap Africans to regain something, then even that in itself, this fight in itself becomes the identity. Because now it's like, oh, Africans have been oppressed, so now we must fight to get our identity back from XYZ, and then you become
But
your identity is already there. Like now
I
the
think
identity
let me
becomes
tell you one thing.
Africans need to
I
You
fight.
know,
I think. Oh, okay.
sorry. Let me say this thing here first. In Sudan, for example, in those Quran schools, where most of the boys are taught to become Muslims, and where they are taught to recite a language in Arabic, in a language that is not theirs. In many
Okay.
cases, some of the boys are chained. Equivalent to what Africans went through when they were enslaved. They were
Right.
changed in that way. And when you
Yeah,
start, yes, so it's only through that same treatment, that reforgery, you can remove that programming from them. you know
I think what you mean to say is like we need to be more militant because I've always said this too is like because I live in America and I said in order for the hood and the black community to change we have to be more militant about undoing uh the circumstances that have been put on us, these mental this westernization, quote unquote, right? We have to get back to our African religions too. I might not be West African, but I do believe that like there was nothing wrong with practicing African spirituality. These people removed your spirituality and demonized it, but now you go to Cuba and white Cubans are practicing it. Like, come on. They knew that shit was fire. They knew that shit worked. You know what I mean? Like, they demonized
exactly.
Indians, for example, for having their religions. And you go to India today, so many white people are Hindu. You know what I mean? Like, they know that they messed up and they know the potential that Africa has. That's why they try to strangle everything that makes us great because they don't want us to have it. They want to have it for themselves.
Y- y- you know
I
okay,
mean,
let you as humble speak, because you've been mute for a while. Maybe you want to say something. I know you're dying to say something.
Yeah, I think this is a very, very like delightful panel to start with on Sunday. Because usually, like, I go and I get information that doesn't necessarily like uplift people around me. It kind of like suits me well because they will tell me what I need to know. But there's this saying my grandpa always say that when educated people fail to write with ink, the uneducated will write with blood. I think that is what it is in
That
Africa
was a
now.
deep one. That one we should write it down. That one needs to be written down, man. That was a deep one.
Yeah,
Continue.
I
Sorry.
think, yeah, no, it's fine. I
the ink
think,
could be just as violent. That's all I want to say.
yeah. So, but the thing is just that I think the world is evolving in the sense that on a normal, like back in the 80s, we shouldn't like be communicating. This is abnormal, like back in the days. But this, since this is our normal now, why don't we channel this energy for something very, very progressive? I know we don't have internet in all of Africa and all that. I think Africans, we are everywhere in the world. I think it's time we kind of like allow our educated people to take positions, because sometimes you make videos, you have 300 views, the algorithm will push it to Africans to watch. Why don't we get the smartest person in Ghana, the smartest person in South Africa, the smartest person in Congo? Oh, you represent Congo. Whatever you are very educated, whatever you are saying is going to, we have to establish a body that will speak on our behalf, because we don't trust these old. Yeah, they are doing their best, but they have been influenced for a very long time that their hands are soiled. I'm going to close with this. You know, when you want to go to get an iPhone, you don't go to Tim Cook. You have to go to the one of the sales rep and all that in your locality. I think these people that are representing us are now the sales reps of the white colonial master, still dealing with us. I think we need to change the system. For me, I don't believe that we should take up arms and be violent. I believe that this is psychological warfare. We have to play accordingly. We have to, how do we pass this message across to our Muslim brothers, my Christian sisters? Like, hey, we are under the umbrella of the white colony, because whether you are a Christian or Muslim, you are in chain, you are a cult. That is why a lot of people would die just to defend this ideology. I think I'm going to stop
Verify
there.
the
Thank
live.
you.
Sorry, TikTok. Let me verify the live. Sorry. There you go. Yep. Sorry. I agree with you. You know, and I've been saying this the longest of time. And the way I see it, it is impossible to have a liberated Africa if we subscribe to either Christianity or Islam. You know, and that is a fact, because if we keep holding on to those ideologies, it will do a disjustice, because we are not the hegemon, the benefactors of such religion. You know, we don't push new ideas around Christianity or Islam. You know, no one see Africans as the powerhouse of any religion. You know, so the fact that we keep subscribing to those things, it will be disjustice to us, because the way it was introduced to our people. You know, I see my family members and the way they are Christians, and sometimes I see people being dishonest to themselves, where in the one end they have a religion, or they hold upon a religion where it says, let's say, X, Y, and Z is prohibited. Okay, but then they find ways to make it legal so that they will feel good within themselves. You know what these interpretations of such text does to a person. It makes you indigenous, or what the fuck, ingenuous. That's a word, right? In English, at least it makes you
Yeah.
not honest to your own self. And when you have that at a larger scale, where you have a lot of people who are like-minded and they hold public places, all of a sudden they start bringing said ideology. All of a sudden, corruption, because it's a corrupt person, because you start at home. Charity begins at home. You are used to twisting the Bible to benefit you when it's necessary. So then, okay, purpose. So then, when it's time to be a president or a lawyer or something, you twist the law of the state to benefit yourself. So that is why I hold the view that we can have an African society where we have Christianity as a religion, or Islam, because of the way our people are. And I'm gonna leave
Yeah,
it at that.
the,
If people
So
don't
so
agree,
is
they
this
don't agree.
about like how do Africans get more power in the world? Is this what this
It's not about how we get power. It's more of like how we survive, because you have to understand, Africans think they are surviving, but actually we are not surviving. People are letting us survive. It's like we are still at the mercy of the white man. And I said that earlier on, that people say, for example, in Ghana we gained our independence, or many other African countries we gained our independence. I tell them our independence was given to us, or it was borrowed for a short term, because we never fought for it.
yeah, yeah. No, I mean, even if we accept the religion itself, is instead of the religion itself is problematic. Even if you accept it, it's still is a destructive um, system. Now, I can tell you one story that I have heard. Uh, it was like there was a partner. They love the Ethiopian. By the way, the Ethiopian, and then she she married him like legally as a part of the religion. Oh, oh my God,
Sorry,
you
I
guys.
muted him. Please, when you join the panel, just mute yourself so that people can hear. Um,
So there's a partner, and they live for long, and she have affair with other man. So in order to be with that new man, she have to divorce him legally. But but the problem is, according to her religion dogma and religious perspective, is sinful, and she cannot divorce him anything. So what she thought is to unalive him and be with the new man, and she did it. You see the problem. She makes more worse
mhm.
than the divorce in paper in legal. She make more worse in morally if you see it. But then, according to her belief and the religion she taught, it was a very righteous way to unalive him, then have affair or marry the new man she have again. The religion itself is completely destructive. In any way it's destructive. Religion should be only to like a private. You should have your own religion or belief and not impose on others. Like it should be like not to have like a lot of people in same and have ideas about how to do in daily life. It's basically destructive in any aspect of life.
I get you.
So then, so Mystic, so then why advocate for another type of religion if you just said that?
What did I ever advocate?
Because you're saying religion should be private. You just laid out like other another version of what religion should be after just having an example of like how the toxic beliefs of religion makes people act in certain ways. So then you just said that's what it should be in another way that will make you act in another, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
I'm like comparing between spiritual and religious life.
Okay.
Like what I meant to say is like spiritual or religion, it should be your own right to believe, not to impose on whole society. Even if they speak your own language
um,
or part of your culture, it doesn't matter. You can have your own belief, but not impose on other people and have a system that is related to your dogma or any kind of religion.
Right. So
Mystic.
that's their
Oh.
dogma. So if you go to another person or who has another religion that says, okay, maybe we don't kill unalive the husband if she wants a divorce, maybe you just cheat on him and then have a baby or some other type of beliefs. Wouldn't it be the same kind of bad thing if it's not imposed and it's just different from this person who believes they have to unalive?
I don't understand
I'm saying
clearly.
you're saying that religion should be not imposed, it should be your own. So what if my own is another version? Maybe just the way you said the lady who wants to unalive somebody as part of her religion because her religion tells her to unalive the husband to get a new husband. What if my own religion tells me to do something else that's just equally as bad, is what I'm saying.
I think maybe
Well,
he's
it's still
speaking
the
to
same.
maybe we should have an
It is the same. It's the same destructive.
Yeah, it's the same thing, right?
Yeah, it's the
I
same.
agree.
The
like
same
I was
thing.
just thinking about Christianity, right? In Ethiopia, the Ethiopian Orthodox Church. I don't know if you're from there, Mystic, or what. You have like an accent, but I always seen it like as an African version of Christianity that we take a lot of pride in, with no real strong European influences, where we can still be ourselves without, having to how do you say it, assimilate into what they wanted. You know what I mean? Like it's something of our own. And sometimes I always wondered, like, why that never spread instead of this
Is
European
that
one
is that a
that
problem
tells
though? That
people,
Well,
oh,
the word
you were
Africa,
supposed to be a
you're integrating
slave.
yourself into a European concept. Because Ethiopia don't have nothing to do with Africa.
Right, and even
They
in
are. We are
Africa,
No,
but
that
African,
no,
though.
that's
What are you
not. That's a
saying? Yes, we
European.
are. What are you
That's a
saying?
Europe.
guys, listen.
Don't
That's
get
a
the
Listen.
get the fuck
Africa
out
is
of
a
here. You're not
European
even African
creation.
to tell me who the
Hold
fuck
on.
I am. We are
Africa is a
the
European
we are
creation.
Hold on, please. Let me.
Africa is a European
Why are you
creation.
letting him?
Wait. I'm gonna
Excuse me.
hold on. I'm gonna mute. Hold on.
That's
Let's
so crazy. I'm being
introduce.
disrespected.
It
I'm a
is
woman.
Tevin. Hold on for me, Nine. Tevin. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to you.
How you doing?
Sorry.
No, I'm just explaining to her like, how could she call herself African when that's a European
I'm
creation?
trying to qualify you for the live. That's what first.
Okay.
Yeah.
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 He's definitely Black American. The way he just disrespected a woman.
Where is he
How? If
from
you're
for
It's
me?
a European creation. I'm just trying to explain to you.
Bro,
Like, what's the
you not
let
even
difference?
him let
listening
him
to what I was
let
saying.
him
Because you
You took
introduce.
said
away
Guys,
from
guys,
Ethiopia,
you
stop,
then
took
you
stop,
away
put
from my
stop,
African
talking
on
point. I
stop,
was
Ethiopian
trying to
when
make
stop.
a
Let
Ethiopia's
him
valid
African.
point,
introduce.
and you
Right.
took away
Let him,
from that. You're very
Miss,
disrespectful.
if
We
you
don't do
said
that over
Ethiopia
here.
for
guys,
you
That is
put
the
Ethiopia under
westernization.
African when
guys,
African.
That is the
listen.
Guys,
westernized
I have
behavior
No,
that
to.
we're
you're
talking
stupid
about.
and you don't understand
That
what
is
you're
No,
the
saying.
stop,
westernized
stop,
behavior that
stop,
we're talking
guys,
about.
guys,
No,
guys.
you're
Mute,
stupid
mute,
and you
mute,
don't know.
Why
mute.
are you muting me? Mute him.
Hold on, relax. I'm muting both of
Stop,
you.
I
guys.
gave gifts in here. I should be prioritized.
You
Hold on,
mad?
hold
You
on.
mad because you dumb?
Wait.
You're dumb.
Stop,
You're dumb.
stop.
You
Tevin, I'm
fucking
gonna
Black
teach you.
American
You
piece of
You
I'm gonna
white?
shit.
talk. Hold on please.
You white European African?
Tevin, if you're not gonna
Why are
relax,
All
I
right,
you?
have
You
I'm
know,
to.
not.
I'm
I'm
gonna
just
leave.
listening.
I wanted to have an
Bye, leave.
educational
Bye,
discussion. I
leave.
made a very good point, and you
Leave.
took
No,
away
you
from it,
didn't, because
talking
African
over
is not
me.
a good point when you put
We
it
were
on.
having a good. Thank you.
I can't do it. I have to do it this way because if people are not gonna listen, then I have to kick them. Because Tevin, if you're gonna come up on the live, I need to qualify for the live, and you shouldn't speak and call people names. Listen, most of the times on this live we do disagree, but calling people names is a no-no. Okay, so
And this is one of the things like that really bother me. Like they just don't have no respect for women. I literally made a valid point. I was just saying, I was trying to relate with Mystic for a minute about Ethiopian Christianity. I don't know if he's from there or whatever, but like, I felt like, that's an African Christianity that we could take pride in, that has little to no European influences. That's all I was speaking to. And I felt like that's what the two gentlemen were talking about. And then he
Right.
comes in saying, oh, you're not African. Africa's a European word. I'm just like, okay, we know that, but that you're taking away from the point I'm trying to make is that Africans should have the right to practice African religions, African spirituality, wear African clothes. If you want to walk out with your titties hanging, you can do that. I'm sorry, host, I said that, but I don't see anything wrong with the way that we've been living. If you want to put your feet in the ground, that is a beautiful thing to get in touch with nature. If you want to herd cattle, that's a beautiful thing. Why is that looked down on in the Western world is beyond me. That's all I'm saying.
yeah, I do agree. But back to the Ethiopian church to begin with. I for one see, and do correct me if I am wrong. I see the Ethiopian church, or the Orthodox church, how to say it, as an extension of Christianity in itself. For me, I believe it
Facts.
also did away with what Ethiopians used to be. So even though Ethiopians have found a way to merge Christianity into society in a way where you can't separate the Ethiopians from the Christianity, you have to understand. I, for one, view it as an internal colonization because Ethiopians didn't choose to be Christians. It was one thing that was ordained by the ruler of that time, that when he became Christian, this is gonna be the state religion, and it became so. And do correct me if I'm wrong, and I'm gonna leave it to that.
But isn't that meaning that they did choose? Because isn't that how like culture spreads though at those times?
No, you see, it's like when, let's say, your father should choose something prior to you being born, okay, and then he indoctrinates you into that setting. You didn't have a saying in it, and it's become their culture like this, that they know nothing else but what they see, or they have around.
Right.
So it's like to tell an Ethiopian that, oh, we used to have something apart from this. People are like, no, but this is beautiful. This is all I know. I can't go back to what I used to have, you know. And I do understand that, but for me,
But that's how
I want to say
anything
this,
that's how
right?
anything works though.
But hold on. Let me just say this, right? Historically speaking, we are mentioned in the Bible a couple of times, right? Our Bible is completely different from theirs. And another thing is that even if it was quote unquote, um, how do you say, given to us, it wasn't forced in the way that it was to African slaves in, the diaspora, the transatlantic slave trade. Nobody beat it into us. Nobody stole our languages, our tribes, our cultures. Nobody, it wasn't done in the same, how do you say it? Violent way. You know what I mean? It was more like it came through trading. It's very like,
Can I ask a
Yeah,
question?
I
but
don't
I
know how to
mean,
explain
I
it.
feel like guys, we
It's
haven't.
not the same. Put it like that. It's not really
Okay,
the
I
same.
have a
And we were
question.
able
I
to
have a
make it
question.
something our own at the end of the day.
I have a question. If, for example,
Guys.
an Ethiopian, let's say I denounce Christianity, what are the consequences for that person?
You said, huh?
If
Depends where you are.
if
And all
say
Ethiopians aren't Christian. We also have Muslim. We
okay,
also
yeah,
have
let's say I know the
Judaism.
consequences for
We
Yeah,
have
Ethiopians.
a
and it
lot of
depends on
different
where you are in
religions.
your
Yeah, but
family.
as an Ethiopian, if you should
Me personally, I
denounce,
don't have no religion.
yeah, but if one person should denounce and do answer Mystic if you want, and denounces their religion, what are the consequences?
I mean, depends on where you are. I don't know what you're trying to look for with that question. It's like
No, no,
I don't
let's
know.
say
I don't know of anything.
no,
Maybe Mystic can speak to that because I'm
Mystic.
it
also
just
mixed. I'm
depends.
not fully
It literally
Ethiopian to
just
speak on that.
depends where you are and your social
Um,
fabric.
look,
I
look,
never.
I have been a part of this religion for a long time, since especially 2019. I've been declared like completely removed from that group, from the Ethiopian church. It's a problem. Is this church I see it as toll of part of the Ethiopian politic, as toll. They use as toll. Well, inside within the culture of the religion, if you denounce or leave or change religion, you will have a lot of consequences. First of all, you will not be part of the religion of that family. You will be like separated, or you will be in exile, live in exile, or you will not be have any kind of inheritance within that family. So you will exclude basically, but they will not take you into like very harm, like the Muslim do, like very harmful way. But they will like exclude you completely. That's how is how I
Maybe
have
like a
saw.
social thing though, like
Yeah, social
socially,
thing. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
how you say it,
But
ostracized, like exile, social exile. Put it like that,
Hmm.
yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah. Social
Theater
exile. Yeah,
terms.
to isolate you from completely isolate you. Look, here is the thing. Within the Ethiopian, so-called Ethiopian church, it's not actually Ethiopian church. It have been like three parts. It have been like divided in three parts. There is the Tigrayan Synodos religion. There is Oromo Synodos religion, and there is Ethiopian Synodos religion. Like different. They have not just for difference in language, but they have also in dogmas, in theologies in many way. Like they are divided basically, but they
Right.
pretend they pretend to be like Ethiopian Orthodox. But if you call me as a Tigrayan, I would never go to Ethiopian church and pay and in Amharic, even though I don't speak Amharic. Even if I speak, I don't go there because we have a complete different in culture, in religion, in politics, and we are very divided within that so-called Ethiopia.
Okay.
Right. So then my claim is all going back to like these types of conversation we have of like why is it that we then have these conversation of like, oh, the westernized
Let me tell you
versions
why I think,
when
if I should answer it. First and foremost, and sorry that if it feels like I'm cutting off, and I wanted to say to you, Nai, that I'm sorry you had experience. That's not what we're trying to do here, but yeah, it happens. Americans are a certain way, and everyone that is on this panel know how Americans do behave, and it's a frequent thing
no.
that does happen. Some Americans,
What?
yeah.
Bruh.
You,
Guys, come on now. Now you guys are
no,
being
no, no, no.
hella
Listen. I've been doing this for years now. Mystic knows. But back to what I was saying. It is healthy for other Africans to know that there are other Africans out there that have the same opinion as them. That you are not isolated or dumb or crazy for having the opinions that you do. and especially if that opinion is under the line of the freedom of Africans and the survivability of Africans, it is necessary that we see and hear each other. Most of the people that I make friends with from these platforms are people who sometimes will come that will totally against my views. Then as time goes on, people ask me for my number, I give them, and we conversate on a private level, and I explain things further to them, why people should do a deeper dive into why you are the way you are as an African. Why is it that when you speak English, you're seen as more than when you speak your own language? Then people start deconstructing, because that is the intent of this life, to deconstruct from colonial behaviors.
Okay. Can I make the point that I was talking about?
Yeah.
The point that I was talking about, this live is so okay. I get the point of trying to shed light on the effects of Western colonizations on African continents, but at the same time, we admit that even in the African continent in itself, there are so many differences and so many bickering that it's impossible to say something is truly African when even in Africa we don't agree. So it's like, at what point are we saying this culture, there's some type of unifying thing in Africa that like is not touched by Western, but it's just a condition of the human, and we don't get to the real deep conversation of what this is actually is.
Okay, let me say this. Let me put it this way. The reason why we say there's more uniform, there's one thing. Let me gonna break it down. In terms of marriage, first and foremost, across the entire continent of Africa, and I think sub-Saharan Africa, where you have dark-skinned people, when it comes to marriage, you marry into families, meaning that you can't just go out and grab someone's woman or son and say we are our own something. You had to go through the family and have meetings and come understanding, and then the marriage is then how do you call it, granted. That was one thing, and it's practiced across the entire Africa. When it comes to religion, most African societies never had a monotheistic view of a god. The god is either plural in a sense, or had a feminine and a masculine aspect of that god, and that's one thing that was practiced across the entire continent of Africa. Okay, and so these ideologies are usually called it homogenic and or universal when it comes to Africans, almost. When you go back to the
Is
West.
it?
Yeah, yeah, almost.
Can I
Brother, can I ask a question?
can I finish
Okay, do
quickly
that. I'll
before?
address you, the guy that's just on SNX.
Okay,
uh,
okay.
just
Look,
just go ahead.
the way religion come to Africa is not just one way. It's a very different way, and very different role. Now, look, in Ethiopia, for example, so-called this country was never called Ethiopia, by the way. But the way religion came to Ethiopia is very, very in peace way. Like in the fourth century, there was no Christianity in Europe. Only it was like living in a little piece of land in the Middle East. But in Christianity, in the Roman Empire, there was a huge like anti-Christianity in that way. So they was persecuted them Christians. So they most of them came to the Horn of Africa, which is the Aksumite kingdom. In the fourth century, Aksum embraced that religion as official, a part of that kingdom. But after this kingdom collapsed, Christianity become more like expand by like European, like by violence into the inhabitants of the African origin, like the Oromos, the Somalis, and others. For example, as a Tigrayan, as a Christian, if they see me as I'm Christian, they feel like I'm one of the expansionists, like the one who imposed Christianity on them, like the Kunamas and others Africans origin. What I'm saying is, even though it came like in peace way, but afterward, it became more like part of the empire, Ethiopian empire, expansionist by the religion against others Africans people. At the end of the day, all this is the same. How it comes, it becomes part of this global expansionist tool.
Thank you for clarifying. Let me address or greet in. How should we refer to you, SNX? What's your name?
Snotty nose duck, brother.
Sorry, snotty
Yes,
nose.
sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. Good morning,
Oh
good afternoon,
God.
good evening to you.
This is my producer handle.
Yeah, okay, starting
I
notes.
made a
How do you
lot of
want to
money with that
participate?
name.
How do you want to participate in the live today?
Well, the way I want to participate is brothers from African descent. Why don't you get out of Africa? Why don't you migrate to Western countries or Asian countries? Because what's going on in Africa, we can't fix it in this generation, man. You can't fix it in this generation.
Wait, are you hearing yourself?
You African?
Wait.
No, I'm African
He's an
American.
African American, obviously, but I'm saying he's saying that why don't Africans migrate out of Africa
Yes,
to go where?
to Western countries or Asian countries,
You know
man.
how many
It's
Africans there are in the world?
a whole lot.
Yeah, and you think the Western infrastructure can handle a explosion of people?
No, I mean, obviously not everybody can go, but I'm just saying for the brothers and sisters on this panel, people who are intellectuals who want to. That's
Why
what I'm saying.
would it be
Where do you
necessary
think
for
we
them
live,
to?
sir?
Yeah, why would it be necessary even for us to migrate into these countries? What are the benefits rather than
Because
fixing your own country?
you know what? Because these countries have benefited greatly off of the resources of the African continent, and they've jumped the African continent in multiple ways, teaming up against the African continent over the centuries. So why not benefit off of the knowledge that they've taken from Africa? In a large part, especially with the Islamic Golden Age, a lot of black people helped them do that in the Islamic Golden Age, especially in the Iberian Peninsula, where they had to use a lot of black soldiers
Y-
to go into there and take over Spain. Why not just like, dude, let's
you have to
benefit,
understand,
play their game.
and we've had that discussion. I think I've answered it before. You have to understand this. Across the continent of Africa, it lies down to necessity. You know, many African nations don't see it or deem it necessary to expand in the same way as Westerners. And that's why Africans do not build nations around said expansion. You know, and you can see the way we do things even to this day, after years of colonization, after years of maltreatment, after years of Westerners sucking resources out of you, see that Africans don't weaponize their countries in a way where we can deter Europeans. You know, and because the necessity is not there, and usually I always say that the idea around survival, and especially when I meet African Americans in Ghana, right? I always say that Americans or Black Americans are more European than Africans, and many people think that I'm wrong in that. But when it comes to the doctrines and mentality, you are, as if I should put it in loose air quotes, as evil or as capable as the white people. That you
Okay,
know
I can respect you feeling that way from your point of view. But what do you feel about the Arabs?
is the same.
Because the Arabs taught the Europeans.
Is the same.
That's a
And have
good
the
point.
same rhetoric against the expansion of Arab ideologies.
I mean, well, what do African countries, black African countries, feel about North Africa?
You know, if it was up to me, right?
I mean, not up to you. No, I'm just saying the sociology. Like, I mean, just what's going on
You know,
in the continent of your country, and I mean, like, what is common knowledge to how you guys feel about Arabs all across Black Africa
it's in many
towards
cases
Northern
it's a
Africa?
split. It's a split kind of a feeling. Those who are similar in terms of religion do have a feeling like we are united in case of religion, but those who don't are like, well, we don't like them as much. You know, and there's those people who are actually, how will I say it, educated, who are like, nah, these people are more Arabs than
Well,
they are
well,
African.
well, not to cut you off, brother, but just the point of view of like, now I'm not talking about the Islamic Black Africans like the Sahelian region. Shout out to the Brother Ibrahim Traore, though. But besides him, I'm talking about the people who are deeply rooted in Black African religion and everything and culture.
Hmm.
How do you guys feel about the Arabs? I mean, it should be something all across Black Africa, right? To where it's like, whoa, what's up with these Arabs?
They don't like them.
Shouldn't it? You talking about me? No, I mean,
No, I'm saying
you
they
just
don't like
said
them.
the
If
point of
that's what you're
view.
saying, they don't like
I mean, but what is the social view? I mean, like, you just had a whole extensive view about how you feel like African Americans are more Europeanized. You're about to go into a deep thing. Like, how do you feel about the Arabs?
them. And
Some of you
It's in your
guys are
continent.
Arabized. Some
no,
black
I feel the
Americans
same way.
some black Americans practice Islam. Like here in Philadelphia, bro, you got to see this. These people willfully chose to practice Islam, and I just look in straight confusion. Like, I understand the whole Malcolm X, back to Africa movement, and, that maybe there was a Senegalese Wolof that was here years ago and they wanted to go off of that. But I'm just saying, there's black Americans that practice it too.
I mean, yes, I mean, but with this is what I'm saying. With the religion of Islam, it's one of the Abrahamic religions. It came out of that region that all the Abrahamic religions came out of, which is Egypt, the Middle East, all that area. Christianity, Judaism, and Islam all came out of that region. So it's obviously something with the knowledge in that region and people conquering and making it their own thing. But what I'm saying is, as far as modern day times, Arabic people treating black Africans like crap in their own continent. And now the Chinese doing it. Everybody else seems to be doing it, but it's like black Americans who made it cool to be black. I know you guys might feel like we try to feel like we're the
What do
main
you mean by
character,
you
and
made
that's
it cool
different.
to be
But
black?
I mean, we said we were black and we were proud, man. Like, come on, man.
You think
Don't just.
you think you are the only people
Oh,
who
you
have
see, that's the
pride
thing.
of being black?
That's not the point, brother.
Okay, but
That's
that's what I'm
not the
saying. I'm
point at
just trying
all.
to clarify that, just so that
I'm just saying we're on this. This is what I'm saying, brother. If your tribe was on this main stage, you'd have did the same thing. My thing is, we are in modern day Rome on steroids, and we just so happen to be the black people that's been waving the black flag. Man, we went through a lot of crazy things in this country, man.
But we had this discussion the other day, and we concluded that Black Americans can't achieve what we called the victory in the civil rights movement because there is no black country or state that is backing your struggle. That is a fact.
And
So
and who's that? Who's at fault with that, brother?
so
We're looking to the
I remember
motherland.
when Ghana, the president of Ghana, went to the United Nations and wanted them to acknowledge slavery as the gravest atrocities in the history of mankind, and people that abstained, America abstained, Israel, of course, Argentina. I mean, they voted against, rather, the rest abstained. But then there was a couple
Yes.
of Black Americans that were like, "Who is the president of Ghana to ask for reparations and so on? We
I
can do it
remember when that
ourselves."
happened.
Yeah,
My mom
Yes.
actually
It
works
it
near the
wasn't that long
burial
ago.
ground, and I'm from New York originally. And it was just the most nastiest display. In fact, I just got off Miss T's live, and Miss T is a FBA who was one of the people who went down there, and they even destroyed the reefs that the Ghanaian president left on federal property, by the way. So they might be going to jail for their heinous crimes against the African burial ground and the federal plaza.
you know,
Well, hold on. I can answer that right quick, brother, if you let me. Can
okay.
I answer it? This is what I'm saying, brother. This argument that we're trying to get into right now is tit for tat. As black people all across, no matter if you're in America, Africa, whatever, the Caribbeans, whatever. The only thing that matters is power. We gotta ask ourselves,
Facts.
why
This is what I was
didn't
saying.
they do the Arabs like this? Because they know the Arabs are willing to suicide bomb themselves. You gotta really ask these questions, man. These are the things that are very way more important than what we're trying to get in the argument about going to the United Nations and asking for something that they stole from us and did all type of
Exactly.
crazy things to our people.
Yep.
Axing the same descendants of these same people? Like, what are we talking about? And you're trying to bait me into an argument about that amongst my own people that look like me, no matter where you're from?
Now,
This is what I was saying. I was like, this whole conversation is about power. The
listen,
whole from
I
the
do
start.
agree, and I've said it
That's
multiple
all it's
times that
about, man.
Yup.
Africa would not be truly free until we acquire weapons of mass destructions. That is the only time Africa can be free. Until that point, we will never be free.
And brother, the only way, okay, look at what Ibrahim Traore is doing. Okay, yes, he's under Islam, but guess who he has backing him? Russia and China. You have to go against the West. We have to play chess at this point, man.
One thing that is funny to me, even at this point, that when the Africans want to rise up and take up arms, we still need help from the white man to achieve that within ourselves.
But you see, brother, you know what? This is the craziest part about it is because for one, this one of the thing is that people need to understand. They're always trying to paint the African as the last of all the other human species. But they don't tell you that the Native Americans of the United States, they didn't have metallurgy until the Spanish came 600 years ago. They don't tell you that Western Africa had metallurgy in the BCE era. They don't tell you all the black African achievements. They don't tell you that we were a part of all these different empires
But
that
but
settled
that's the
in
thing.
the African continent, man.
That's the thing.
They don't tell you these things.
We outsource our educations to our colonizers, and that is a problem. And I say this like this, and this is the reason why many African revolutions fail. First is education. We don't educate our youngins the way we want them to be. So, for example, in Burkina Faso, for example, where you have Ibrahim Traore doing great things, mind you, the curriculum in which they educate their children is the same that like what it used to be under French rule. So even though you are striving to do good things, just educating the next generation with colonial teachings is gonna undo all the hard work that you're doing. So education is the first. You see, I always say this, that I am okay if it was between my children not being educated at all and being educated in Western ways. I rather choose them not being educated at all. And some people don't understand when I make those remarks, but for me, that's what I'm willing to do, because education is the reason why we don't prosper. In Ghana, for example, and a nation that cannot feed itself. Imagine you have a nation of 30 plus million people that you are importing your basic needs. Common toothpicks is being imported. You know, toilet roll that you clean, wipe your ass with. That's something you've been doing for generations. Listen, any civilization that have been doing one thing for so long, let's say eating is one thing a civilization has been doing for so long. You shitting and wiping your ass, something you've been doing for so long. Drinking water, medicine. If you are at a point where you have to outsource those basic needs, shelter, to outsiders, it's a failed society. That society is a failed state. And I always tell it to any Ghanaian minister that I say, listen, I tell them our state is a failed state. We are incapable of feeding ourselves.
But it's the reason why it is that way. You gotta understand, people jumped Africa. It
And you
wasn't
get
just one person, one people who conquered Africa. It was multiple people who jumped Africa at multiple different times. And for one, Africa was never, for a long time, for thousands of years, since the Romans, it was always multiple different people in Africa. It's not like the Americas where this is a whole different continent. and then people just call dibs on it. It's different. It's very different. These are wars that have been fought way for centuries, way beyond centuries.
Guys, if everyone said what they want to say in this segment, so we can move and try to tackle some of the questions on the board, so that the conversation can progress.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's try
Just
to. Okay, so you missed it.
what I want to say just shortly is that you said education is important. Yes, but how can you be educated when you say Allahu Akbar all the time and educated by the Arabic language and fans? How can you be like free and educated person when you like copy every pieces of from the colonies? It's nonsense. You have to. I think you have to create a new language, maybe new alphabet.
And that's why I say it, and I say these, and usually I hate the fact that I'm saying that, the Ibrahim Touare, and the movement in which is putting on is eventually gonna lose momentum because of the ground, the foundation of it, which is based on, and it turns
But it should gain momentum,
let me
brother.
tell you let me tell you one thing. The reason why it's not gonna gain momentum is this: any nation, okay, that tries to do good for themselves, let's say Burkina Faso trying to be free from the colonizers, you can't be dependent on other people. It has to be something that has to be within oneself, that you have to arouse the people in every aspect of the society, that listen, if Burkina Faso people, the only nation that have been able to do this is Tanganyika. That it's like this. Regardless of race, religion, or age, those things have no matter. We are united in the trajectory of our nation. If Burkina Faso can galvanize its people in the same way and say, listen, tomorrow morning I want everyone with brooms. We are sweeping the streets. We are gonna keep our streets clean. That's what we need. We need to go back to basic farming, and which he's doing, which is good because you have to feed the people. That's why many African, how do you call it, revolutions and coup d'etat fail, because we can't feed the people. Sugar is being imported, flour to make bread is being imported. So when they sanction us, they sanction those goods. So when people are starving, all of a sudden they call for a new coup d'etat, and the progress has been reversed. So yes, I hate saying those things, that it's gonna lose momentum, but it is one thing that has happened multiple times. Over 100 and something coup d'etats are having in the states of Africa, and the results are always the same.
Brother, can I say something?
I'm listening.
All right. Like I said, brother, I'm from America, man. If you study American history, man, these white people have had things in place for centuries. People who put things in play that they knew they would never live to see the day for it to be in fruition. Benjamin Franklin knew when he talked about immigration, and you guys should all go and Google his immigration speech about how he said, why should we take in the sons of Africa? And this is a place he's talking about in Europe. Keep in mind, he was talking about Europe and places mostly outside of Africa. He was saying, why should we take in the sons of Africa who are tawny or swarthy? Why should we take in these people when we have a place altogether to build a white nation? He said these things in the 1700s. It's like it's certain things that people need to understand to where it's like, okay, see, I just feel like black Africans are so used to, okay, everybody's black. We focus on our, so you guys focus on your differences, but it's like, man, Ibrahim Traore has sanction, man. He has a certain power now that everybody should get under. It's like America, United States, we act like this is a Christian nation. This is not a Christian nation. This is a white supremacy nation. They act like it's Christian though. They guise it under Christianity, but this is a white supremacy nation. So it doesn't matter if Ibrahim Traore is Islamic. It's the point to where this is the point. This is the only brother right now to where, not to say he's the only one. I don't know what else is going on in other countries in Africa, but just the point. This he's under the mainstream's point of view. Everybody trying to get rid of him, man. It's just the point. I just don't understand why black nations are not rallying behind him,
You know,
especially with the Arabs, man. Because that's really our no. Not not to cut you off, brother, but for the white man to do what he's done, it's because the Arabs set it in place, man. You got to really understand, man. In the first world nation, because I know a lot of people, and this is what I'm saying. Not to disrespect anybody in black African countries, man, but it's like, man, you got to really understand what the United States is, man. This is modern day Rome on steroids. We have we could look up history under our fingertips, man, and a continent which is 80% black, which is Africa. You mean to tell me we weren't a part of none of those empires? The
I
Carthaginians,
can
the
say about
Phoenicians, none of
about
that?
that guy if you
What
want.
are we talking about? They wrote of they wrote us out of all of that history, man. Then you got people like what's his name? Bill something. I forgot what his name. But he's trying to give contraceptives to black African women to make them stop having children. He's trying to
he ain't doing that.
eradicate black Africa more
Listen,
so.
sorry to cut you off. One thing that I think I remember there was a commentator that put it this way, and it's this that in order for black people to achieve the things that we speak of in these lives, we have to be racist to a certain degree. Meaning
Of course.
we have to, for example, prohibit our men and women from mixing with other cultures. That's one. And it's with and the person who said it with good intentions, and because it's necessary. Because when you look across history, any nation that is standing to this day did it through Jim Crow law, um, oppression, suppression, and separation. And that's how they were able to achieve. If black people were prohibited to mix with other people, all of a sudden you have no choice. You have to deal with your people. Listen, white men are horrible. White women are horrible. But for white men, they have no choice. White women have no choice. You had to be with the white man, or you had to be with a white woman, and that was what it was. And you can see them to this day. The white man, no matter what the white woman does, is gonna back her. You know, every single time. Oh my God. I've been flagged for hate speech, but it's all right. It's all right. I've been flagged for hate speech, but it's all right. It's part of this life. It happens frequently, but that is what is necessary, and that's how the commentator put it. TikTok. Okay, I'm just rephrasing what someone said. So with that said, it is necessary for us to achieve those things. And I see you, Scott. But let's on if anyone wants to say something, then so we can move on to the next stage of this live.
Yeah. I just quickly say about that guy, the person who was referring to the leader of Burkina Faso. Look,
Burkina Bay.
yeah, that guy, he was trying to be like African, and he was trying to call all African countries to unify with him, and he kicked out the colonizer, basically the former colonizer of that region,
Yes.
France, yeah. But here's the thing: what I don't dislike him is that he changed his colonizer masters. Basically, he after he kick out all of these former colonizers, he went directly to Moscow and says, "Hey, how are you doing? Can you help me, please? Your forces? Can you look?" He just changed the his master basically. Why he couldn't be like stand by and be at least sufficient for to protect his self from the surrounders, and maybe he will attract to the other kind of African country. But he just basically changed his master. That's how I see it.
All right, well, can I respond to him? Because, I mean, she just said, or whoever the hell it was, a she or a he. He just said, I changed my masters, right? Can you agree that they just said that?
Yeah, I agree. He said he have changed my masters. Oh, that's what Mystic
I
said.
have changed my masters. Okay, can I ask you guys, in truthful speaking, what do you think of Black Americans in 2026? What is the stereotypes that you guys hear from us?
For me, I can answer this. From the experience of black Americans that I've encountered through because of this life is entitlement.
No, I'm saying as far as like our morale as a people. What do you guys think of us?
Morals of people, I think
Yeah.
I don't know if you're gonna say it. It's mediocre. If
No. This is what I'm saying, brother. It's like, do you think we're aggressive people or we're docile people or something like that?
I don't think you are aggressive in that say in a sense, but when you find yourself in aggressive environment, you become aggressive because those are the necessities for you to survive in the environment in which you find yourself. So hostile
Okay.
environments create hostile people. So if Black Americans are, and which they are, in hostile environment, they will become hostile people, and that's a fact with
Like
anyone.
I see them
Okay.
as more Americans than Africans. I
Okay.
see them like more into the how can I say, like they are very integrated to the Americans' life and principle rather than African. They cannot survive like for 5 months in African country. The way
Okay.
the way they
Mystic,
react,
are
the way
you
they live.
Mystic? Are you a Black African?
I'm yes, I'm a Horn African.
You're Horn African.
It's
Yeah,
African if
East African Vatican.
Okay, so you truly bend the knee to the Arabs if you're not an Arab yourself. I don't think it's funny at all.
No, I'm a,
Yes or
I'm
no?
I'm African. No, why you calling me like Arab stuff like that?
I mean, no, because you're saying you bend the knee to the yeah, a master and you change it to another master. No, you see, where we come from in America, where we have it now, white people cross the sidewalk if they see us. White people bow their heads. It's like this is the point of morale. While Black Americans are what we are in the world, man. While we are, perpetrated all over the world, how we are in our morale. And this is what I feel like a lot of Black African nations should be. Because even if you are an Eastern African who is truly a Black Eastern African, then you should feel the same way because they stole your history too. The Arabs stole your history. You see, the Arabs taught the white tea man these things. It's
Uh,
like I just don't understand how you're not very cultured in history in the most cultured continent. I truly don't understand how you don't
I,
know your own history.
I was trying to understand. Are you saying that the Americans, the Black Americans, are more like high in morals in education? Are you saying that like that? I just try to answer. What do you
yes,
want
I
to
feel
say?
yes,
like
that's
he's
okay.
trying to do that FBA talking point where they try to say
No, it's
like,
not
you know,
FBA.
that Black Americans are the most prideful and the rest of us kiss up to Arabs and white people and we haven't fought or put in the same amount of work to
No,
free
well, you,
ourselves as they do. It's like a superiority complex. Like whether you want to
no,
admit
no,
that or
no,
not, you're
That's
making microaggressions and
no, no,
I
no,
don't care for
no.
it. I've been silent
You
for
know,
a
you can
while
ask me.
and
Well,
you're
you
not
can
gonna
ask
talk
me a
over me.
question.
If
okay.
that's what
You
you're
can
gonna
ask me
say,
a
just come out
question.
and say it, bro. Why are we not fixing back home? Why are we from failed countries? We've heard it before. And the thing is that
That's
y'all not
not the point.
understanding that there are situations that are in place that is preventing us from doing that. And we're trying to come up with a way. It's not
The
that
point.
easy.
The point is why are these situations the way they are? Because of things that that happened way before you were born. It's just the point. This is Black Africa we're talking about, man. You have all this morale across the diaspora of different Black people. We have all these things to say about each other. Why are we not talking about the people that's encroaching on the motherland from which we all come from? That's my whole point.
hold on. I hear you, and the conversation is great, but we have to get back to topic. You know, we've been for 45 minutes we have been sidetracked, so it's okay because we were doing this for 3 hours, okay, and we've been this doing this for 2 hours now, so it's like 1 hour left, and I'm trying to, you know. So let's try to tackle the questions on the board, okay? So so we can come back. And the first question is, can people consume Western culture without losing identity?
Yes, you can.
Okay, how so? Explain. How can you consume Western culture without losing your identity?
Well, you can move to a Western country and achieve all the things you can't do in your modern country in whatever the hell Africa, and still keep your ethnic background and your cultural belief system and pass it on to your children.
Is it feasible?
Yes, it is feasible because
Good.
this is just the modern times we live in, man. This is just facts of the world. China is about to encroach, and this is going to be a 1,000-year reign over
China
Western
to China.
imperial
Okay, hold on.
powers.
Thank you for your answer. I'm gonna move on to the next person. Purpose. What do you feel of the first question? Is it possible?
Well, I don't know. It depends who's consuming. If it was the other way around, for example, when the Western world was consuming our culture, which they do, but and they pretend they don't consume it. I think it's not really quite. Uh, the aspect of losing our identity as Africans is it's a bit fragile. This statement, I would say, it's very fragile in the case that when people have it's all rooted in the education system and in the economic systems. So going forward, um, you want to emulate the culture that is on top of the food chain and what everyone is looking up to. So everyone else is looking at the Americas or the European way of living as the ideal way of life. So there's the risk of erasure without a benefit of a doubt, I think. Yeah.
I need more agua, you know, so I just had to refill my cup. I'm sorry. Yes, but I was listening. I listen, and I hear you. I hear you. What about you, Nine? What do you? How do you want to tackle that question? Can you hear me? Did I lose my microphone?
No, it's functioning
It's functioning. Okay,
quite.
then she's AFK.
Hi, what are you talking about?
The
Are you
first
asking me?
question. Yeah, I'm asking
Oh,
you the first question.
oh. I answered it already, but I can reiterate. I feel like you can still consume Western culture without losing your identity, as long as you feel like it's important enough. Like if it's important enough to you and you feel like proud of who you are, proud of where you come from, nothing can take away your identity. You understand? You could enjoy certain things from Western culture, like music or maybe a couple foods, but if you really love who you are for real, you won't want to assimilate completely or at all. You know what I mean?
Mm. I see. I see what you mean. What about you, Mystic?
Yeah, I think we are very homogenistic society. Like we are very into uh, whole onto our culture. So I don't. I see it as I don't want to lose my culture and my everything. So I always look back to my homeland. So I do not want to be like here and lose completely my like my everything. So I try to balance, but at the end of the day, as long as you live here for long, you will be consumed by the Western cultures.
I understand what you're saying. And guys, those who are watching, please feel free to comment and answer the same questions, and also like the live, you know, show a young brother love. Um, I see you
Exactly.
guys, your opinions, but I find myself in a split, how to call it, a situation where at this point in life, 2026, we all are consumers of Western cultures. And one can be honest with itself that is it possible for us to maintain what we have, or the state that we find ourselves? Have we lost our identity in some way, or are we maintaining what is ours? Okay, I think that it's not possible because Western culture is one that is created with a poisonous intent. Western culture or the Western ideology is one of the most weaponized ideology in human history. The fact that it is only created to make the white man or the white woman, the white ideology to be superior to any other ideology. So it is actually dangerous even to consume a portion of it because it is a slow poison that is gonna, in air quotes, unalive you eventually. That's what Western culture is, and it sucks you and you become dependent that you can't leave. One of the dangers of many Africans who travel from, and as you were saying in snotty nose, that migrate from Africa to Europe is that they can't go back to Africa. That is the danger of them migrating, if it answers your question. Because coming to Europe is very easy. It's actually easier to come to Europe than to travel amongst African nations. So, when you come here and you make money and you send money back home and so on, all of a sudden you become accustomed to what you have here that it is impossible to go home, to go back to what you left. So then you're stuck. So here you are consuming Western culture, but then you lose the how do you call it, the trust that you used to have that it's gonna get better because all Africans that live home always say that one day I'm gonna go back, but then 10 years pass, 15, 20, 25, 30, 50 years, and
Look,
eventually they die and they are buried back home.
the-
So
uh,
Africa becomes a graveyard of them. So yes, it's possible, and I do see your point in which one can say yes, you can consume, but the ideology itself is a potent ideology, and its
Well,
you,
can I
intent
rebuttal
is
to that, brother?
you can live though, but after 15 years, you can live completely.
uh-huh.
And
You can live
I'd
completely
like to say something
whatever
too.
you have.
Yeah,
Can I
just
can I
one
rebuttal?
time so people can rebuttal. Yeah, of course you can do so. Snotty nose.
All right, all right. This is what I'm saying, brother.
Mhm.
At this point in time, with history and what the militaries of first world countries are, do you think it's important to have allegiances with people like China or Russia
I
to
think
help African countries?
okay, and one
You
thing
can't
that
do it alone, man.
listen, but hold on. Allegiance is necessary. You need friends in high and low places. But one thing the African need is to see themselves with their bare African hands achieving things with the African hands without the help of outsiders. Once the African realize and see that achievement, um, it's impossible for the African. It's limited to what they can do. There's no limit to what the African can do. So for
Brother,
African
it's
to be listen,
beyond that point.
listen. I know it's beyond that point, but that point is necessary that the Africans see that we can achieve things on our own without help. For me, that is more important than
You know
to have
what?
friends. Yeah.
I understand what the host is saying because I saw a documentary one time and it was about how Africa and other I don't want to call Africa a third world, but third world countries,
But
quote
but but
unquote,
but okay.
right? They don't want to accept donations, right? Let me just land, right? They're saying they don't want to accept donations. They want jobs. I literally saw a documentary where they went around the world. They didn't just go to Africa. They went to Asia, parts of Africa, parts of the Caribbean. And these people are saying, stop giving us donations. We want to be the manufacturer of the clothes, not the people getting the clothes. Because they say that, like, for example, like getting all these donations is not helping the countries in an economic way. Like it's still keeping them, you know, oppressed in a way. Like, you know what I mean? Like, yes, thank you for the clothes, but we want to work. We would prefer to work and buy our own clothes with our own money. So you're saying like Africans have the potential that they want to tap into on their own without any outside help or forces. Is that what you're saying?
That's what I'm saying, and that is more necessary. Listen, and I wanted to clarify the concept, the term third world is not, it has nothing to do with it being poor or whatever, but it has something to do, more to do with ideology. Because first you have capitalism as what they classify as the first world, then you have uh, communism, which is classified as a second world. Then the third world, these are people who say, no what, to hell with capitalism, to hell with colonialism, communism. We are going to take the third option. It's none of them, and that is where the classification of third world comes from. So it has nothing to do with poverty or lack of money or being African, but rather the terms of ideology. I just wanted to clarify that. That one. Anyone had anything to say?
Well, I just wanted to say this, man.
Mhm.
We can get a lot of things in life back. One thing we can't get is time.
Mhm.
And the enemies have had time to cultivate a lot of things in the divide of Africa. Now, one thing I'd say with the continent of Africa, they have a lot of African countries who are aiding the next Silicon Valley type of people, whether that's in Ethiopia or different various countries like Zimbabwe and things. There's a lot of people who are being innovative in the technology world. But the thing is, it's controlled, man. At this point, man, Africa is not controlled by Africans. It's controlled by everybody else who all teamed up, whether it be the Chinese, the Arab, or the European, man. It's just these are just facts of the world, man. These are just facts. Now you can hold on to your tribalistic views and things like that, but this is just facts, man. These are facts that you have to deal with in modern times, in the present moment of life. That's
Facts.
facts, man.
What are the facts?
The facts that Africa is very much conquered. How many different languages does Africa speak right now that is not indigenous to Africa? That is not Afro-Asiatic languages, as
You know,
far as what was always there.
listen, it is true that Africa has been conquered and is being conquered and so on. And it's like, I think it's like it's at its most pivotal moment, the final stage of conquering, where people say it's more dangerous, where these conversations are important to have. And we are at a stage where now, even though we see religion growing in Africa, we see more people saying we are tired with this religion and with this old school kind of thinking, where people want to do what benefits them personally, individually. You see them across Africa, where the youngins now I want to go back to what it was, you know, and you find thinkers like myself, Purpose, and even people on this panel and so on, friends that I have, that people are, for example, when it comes to beauty standards, that listen, why is it hard for me as an African man when I say I prefer my woman to have African features, to dress like an African? Why am I being spoken against when I say I don't want my woman to wear wigs? Why is it a bad thing? You know, and I was having this discussion with somebody, a friend of mine, just 2 days ago, and is that yes, I am that person. You see, I prefer my woman to be wig free, to you to use your natural hair, and for me, it is alpha and omega. Is that natural or nothing? You know,
Well, you
and
see,
I think when
that
you're
that
talking
just
about
goes to
that as a
go how
woman,
deep.
hold on, one at a time, please.
go ahead, Snotty Nose. I'll go after you.
All right, well, brother, that just goes to show how deep the conquering has happened. Like, for one, people gotta really understand, man. It's like this is what I'm saying. Like, I understand the African pride in your countries and your ethnic backgrounds in Africa. But you gotta understand, like, what's been going on in Africa. It's been something that's been going on for over 1,000 years. It's not like the Americas, to where okay, the Spanish went to the Americas, and then the Dutch and all the other Europeans, and they conquered them. These are people that just got brought into the human civilization fold 600 years ago.
What do you mean?
What I mean is, what's been going on in Africa is way beyond that,
No,
man.
you said they were brought
These
to
are
human
things.
civilization 600 years ago.
This is what I'm saying. Like before the Spanish got to the Americas, the natives of America, nobody knew they existed, right or wrong. As
Who
far as the
didn't know? They
history
knew they
we
existed.
know
You mean
about,
white people didn't know they existed?
I'm talking about the old world and the new world. That's
There
what
was
I'm talking about,
there's
brother.
no such thing as old world and the new world.
As far as documented history, it is.
As far as
As far
white
as
people deem
documented
it to be
history, it is.
so, it is yes.
It's beyond what white people deemed it to
It's
be.
not
As
beyond white people.
far
It is
as
what it is. When Columbus went to take lands that people inhabited, he called it New World. He
brother, this
called
is
it
what
the
I'm
New
saying,
World.
brother. Yes, brother, this is what I'm saying. Africa, Asia, Europe really is just another part of Asia, which is a little sub part of Europe. That's just a little like brother. Asia, Europe, the Middle East. It's not really the Middle East. No, it's Northeast Africa. We've all known about each other since the beginning of human time.
Snot, no. Let me ask you a question. Are you a black Hebrew Israelite?
No, I'm not.
Okay, I just want to clarify that.
This
Um,
is just the things we document as human history,
listen,
and we get it through
listen.
the Europeans. Before that, we got it through the Arabs.
Let me
I
tell
would
you.
like to speak to the wig
Yeah,
comment
yes,
because
sure, do so.
I think what black men across the diaspora don't understand is that a lot of men are not standing on business when they say that comment, right? And I'm saying this as a racially ambiguous woman because, yes, I'm Ethiopian, but I'm also Virgin Islander and Dominican. So I have a more in between look, okay? That means I have curly hair, light skin. I'm quote unquote the type that most black men go for, right?
I
Is
get you.
that you cannot tell darker skinned women over and over again they're not beautiful. You cannot discriminate against shorter hair. Not all black women are going to grow long hair down to their back. Some of them can only grow hair to their neck, and that is what it is. You know what I mean? I got to be honest, bro, and I've seen it so many times. I've even heard black men tell it to me, and I didn't, abandon my dark-skinned sisters and say, "Yeah, you're right. They are ugly." These men are not standing on business. If more men were standing on business when they say they want a natural-haired woman, trust me, those wigs would come off in an instant. The problem is yeah, I say it online, but then in real life, y'all keep going for the white women, the Chinese women, racially ambiguous, light-skinned black women like myself, and y'all not really pouring
Can I
in
finish
love
my
or
point?
speaking life into these black women that are dark skinned and have 4C hair, meaning
Can
very
I
tightly
can I finish
coiled.
my point, brother?
Hey,
Because
hold on. Let me.
I was going to
I'm
finish my
always
point.
quiet when you talk, and then whenever I talk, you want to talk over me. I'm just gonna leave. Thank you for having
No,
me,
no,
sir, because
hold
I
on,
can't. I can't deal with this.
hold on.
This is so
But
disrespectful.
just hold on, nine for me, and I'm
I just
gonna rebuttal your
I just want to land my plane real quick. That if
yeah.
you want women to stop wearing wigs, then black men, across the
Listen,
diaspora, you are dark skinned women with 4C hair. Your unapologetic love and unapologetic respect. You
You
cannot keep
can't let
talking down
this
these
chick
types of
finish her
women
point.
and expect them to just change overnight. They're trying to look like the woman that you keep going for. That's what I'm trying to tell you. If you were going for them in their natural state in mass, this wouldn't be a problem. So I understand where it's coming from. You can't tell somebody you're ugly, you're dark, your hair don't grow, you're this, you're that, and expect them to feel beautiful. If more of y'all was standing on business, trust me, it would be gone overnight in an instant. But I don't see enough of y'all doing that. I see y'all chasing after big booty. I see y'all chasing after the sexy reds of the world. You know what I mean? Like women that are actually walking around,
Brother,
because there are black women. Hold on, let me land. There are black women that are dark skinned wearing their 4C hair, no weave, no nothing, and they never have a man. They never have a man. All the women
I
with wigs. You understand what I'm saying? If you don't want women to act a certain way, then you need to stop chasing after the thing that you're saying you don't want. But because you keep giving attention to it, the women that are wearing the natural, they end up eventually switching to the other side because they're saying, I'm not getting picked being who I am. And they're growing old and they're unaliving alone. So I'm just, being an advocate on that,
listen.
because if I
I
was a
agree with
black
you.
man,
I
I
agree
would
with
I
you,
would
nine.
love them for who they are. And I see African men doing this too, and it's a very westernized way of thinking, respectfully.
Listen, I agree with you. I agree with you. And I want to say something Snotty knows. The life has progressed beyond what we were talking of before, and I want us to tackle the questions on the board because we have 1 hour left, and I want us to tackle the questions on the board so that we can.
I'm
But
sorry.
No. You are in the right track, nine. But Snotty knows. You understand. So that's where we. I want to talk about beauty standards so that we can move on the
All
line.
right, all right, all right, all right. I just wanted to address something right quick, host. It just goes to show, man, you're not used to growing up around these type of women, right? These exotic women, the where you would look at them as exotic. Well, you muted me every time I was about to say something. Not even within an inch of a second, you muted me for her to talk.
Exactly, because we don't
It's go to
talk
show,
over
man.
each other. We don't talk
Well, he
over
let
each
you
other.
talk. I was
Nah,
on mute for a
nah,
whole
dude.
half hour. I was
She
doing my
started
laundry.
talking over me, dude.
No,
She
no, it's
started
not
talking
true.
No,
over me.
you came in here to derail. You
It's
came in here
very
to be
showing.
funny and give microaggressions. You're not here to have a conducive conversation because you're not even on topic. You're not even an African to really speak on what we're speaking on. It's your culture that is messing up African culture. Your culture disrespects women. Your culture makes marriage look
You gonna
like a
let this
bad thing.
broad
Your
talk?
culture makes women feel like they need to wear a wig.
You're
I'm
letting
being
it.
very
You're
honest here.
so
It is
enthralled
Black
with this
American
broad.
culture that has been put on the forefront, and this is what all these other countries are looking up to
You're
as the
so
as the
enthralled
as
with
the
this
as the
broad.
guidebook to being a Black person today. And this
These
is the most
broads are
degenerate
nothing,
group
man.
of individuals, not your ancestors. Your ancestors were good people, but you guys now are nothing but a bunch of
Hold up,
troublemaking
host.
degenerates. And I
Mute
don't
this
care how you feel
broad,
about it.
host.
You know,
Host.
nine.
Host.
Give me a
Let me
second,
You
speak
nine.
guys
right
have
quick.
destroyed our beautiful continent.
Let
We
me tell
got
you
so
something,
many
brother.
fucking baby moms because of people acting like you guys. I'm just gonna mute.
Uh,
Host. Let
I,
me
I,
tell you something, brother.
okay, say
Hold,
something.
host. Let me just say something right
Keep it
quick,
short. Keep it
host.
short, please. I want to. Okay.
How easy these women are for black people in general to get. There's nothing. They're peons. Talk about African women, actual African women. These women that's these mulatto, all these whatever the hell she's mixed with, they're so easy for us to get. They fall at our
No
knees
accountability.
in
Don't
the
you guys do
Americas.
prompts?
Hold on for me, the nine, please. Okay, nine. I hear what you're saying, but it's derailing from the topic, and I want to get back to the topic, so I'm gonna cut you off so that I can move, so I can speak to what nine said. Okay, yes. So nine, I do agree with you what you said. You know about the African American lifestyle or aesthetics of what a black woman should be, being the standards of what a black woman should be, and it is true because America is the only frontier where hair became political. Okay, in terms that in order for a black woman to have a job in America, you had to have a straightened hair, where people have how do you call it, a hot comb became a thing, which is something that wasn't practiced in many places, and it became something in America that became like to straighten your hair in order to look appealing to the white man, so it became a medium, a means to survive. That's where that
Brother, I can
hairstyle
speak to you
came.
about my history in
Oh, hold on,
Americas.
hold on, please, for me.
I'm just saying.
Okay, hold on. So that is true, but when it comes to me, and one thing I want for many African men is this, that we should speak against wigs, and which I said earlier, that we make, and those of us who are strong enough, that are capable of defending for people with 4C hair, or choose to go with their natural hair, we how do you call it? We compliment them more. We make them feel seen, and so on, so that it's more encouraged. Where, for example, if you are in a position where you can employ people, you employ people who actually choose to use their natural hair. Basically, it's reverse Jim Crow law, if, if I might say, to encourage a better and healthier African behavior. And that's where I'm going to leave it to be so that we can
Can
move
I
on
just
to the
say
next.
one more thing? I'm
Sure,
not trying to derail, I promise, right?
I hear you.
Is that the
Man, let
thing
me
about
speak.
there's the thing about Black Americans that I understand that really grind my gears is that here it is. I'm pro black. But then every day you come on TikTok, they have panels where they're talking the most
This
slander
is
about
not what's
Black
going on over
American
here.
women. Every single day. They do it in the music, they do it in the media, they even do it in comedy sketches. They like to compare the dark skin with the light skin. And this goes back to Western culture, right? And white tea
Brother,
supremacy and how do you say it, the Willie Lynch theory, right? Is that if you keep pedestalizing light skins over dark skins and you keep mixing with other races, eventually the Black race will go extinct. Okay, that is going to be the truth of the matter. You keep promoting fuck the black. I'm sorry,
All
I'm
right,
saying this. F the
man.
black woman
Mute
and,
this
and go
broad,
date
dog.
white woman. That is the most westernized thing you could ever do. I don't see any other group of men doing this in the diaspora. I haven't yet to find a panel with a Jamaican man saying F Jamaican woman or a Nigerian man, F Nigerian woman. Only black men are doing this. And I'm gonna be honest, it's spreading into Africa. I literally just saw a panel the other day. F Ethiopian woman, we need to date white. This is the influence that you guys have. When you guys say you're the most influential, it is all the negative attributes of your culture that are influential. It doesn't seem to be the positive parts that are influential right now. Was it always
So,
like that? No.
Can
But right
hold on,
now,
hold on,
I
hold on.
gotta be honest. That is what's going on. And if y'all want to be pro-black, you have to mate with black women. That is it. Point blank, period. You cannot say you're pro-black and you're here chasing whitey's women.
can I say something?
Yes, mistake.
Yeah, I think about the wings stuff is that it's not just related to black women. It's actually many
Can I
society,
rebuttal
even
to
the
this
white
broad?
society. They use also, even though they have long hair, they use also similar to their wings. Like it's not related only to black. Many, even though they have long hair, they just use a wing. So it's like it's become business,
Nobody
total
about to
business.
just mute me out of this, brother. Let me
You keep
respond to this
derailing.
broad. Nah, you gonna let this broad talk. For
I'm
one,
abroad to you. See, this is what the
This
slave
guy
master
you
taught
become
keep
you. Your
talking.
slave master
Hold on for
taught
me.
you to hate black women, and you're
Now
feeding
you see,
into
you
it
gonna let
every
this
day.
broad keep talking.
Yeah, this
can I
broad.
finish? Can I
Hold on,
finish?
hold
And
on,
you're
Can I
broad.
letting
finish?
this degenerate hood
Let me
rat
tell you
talk.
something, brother.
You're a
Hold on,
degenerate. What kind of grown man names
Broad,
himself snotty nose? You don't
it's,
deserve to be in an intellectual
Can we change
debate
the topic?
about
Can we change the
African
hold
topic?
on,
politics.
hold on
See
for me.
your
no,
ass
no,
out of
no,
here.
no, 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 no,
They don't
no,
even
no,
like you in
no.
the comments. They want you to go.
Fuck,
Somebody send the
man,
host
you
of
gonna
Galaxy
let
before I
this,
do,
you
because
gonna
I
let this
will.
broad
It's
keep
worth every
talking.
fucking penny to get you out of here.
Host, you gonna let this
I don't
broad
have
keep
respect for y'all
talking.
black American men. I don't care how anybody feels about it. Yes, I'm xenophobic.
This is what I'm saying. This is what I'm
I
saying, broad.
don't.
This is what I'm
Y'all
saying,
very
broad.
disrespectful.
When you this
Y'all
broad,
are beta
check this
males.
out, broad. Check this out.
Hold on for me real
When
quick.
you are a dark
Look at
melanated
none of the
man,
African men are disrespecting me. If you pay attention, this is why black American women are dating African men, because they do not disrespect like
man,
you
what
do.
the
You guys
fuck,
do
nigga? You
50-50.
gonna let this
They know
bitch
how to
keep
take care of a
talking?
woman. You don't know anything about being a man. Maybe you
Just
should
Can I
keep
take
ask
some
one
talking.
notes
question? One
and
question,
mute
Nine,
please.
yourself.
nine.
One
Hold on
question.
You
for me.
letting this bitch
Okay.
keep talking,
No, no.
nigga.
All right,
Hold
yeah,
on.
he has to get dropped for that, or I'm gonna go. I'm gonna report. That's what I'm gonna
Brother,
do.
brother, you
Hold on.
gonna drop me because of this broad? Like,
Give me a
brother,
second.
That's
let me
a
speak right quick,
Everyone,
bro.
quiet for a moment. Everyone, quiet for a moment. Um, you know, Snot knows. One thing that you have to understand is this: we are on a TikTok platform, which is very
Man,
sensitive.
look, man, you don't
Hold
let
on,
this
and I'm
broad.
talking. Hold
No, no,
on. Which is sensitive to name calling and so on. I have been flagged already for hate speech and everything. Calling people names is not okay. Okay, you can disagree, but you don't call names. Ask Mystic. We disagree every live, but still, we don't call each other names. You know, calling people names is too far.
yeah. After you don't let this broad into,
Salute, can I
just
ask you
this
one
disrespect
question?
broad.
my
You have
whole.
a freaking username,
You still
Snotty
letting her do
Nose.
this,
Salute,
You are
Salute,
dude.
can I ask you one question?
anti-intellectual. You are a thug. You are part of the problem in our community. You're going around unaliving women and children. There's a
Okay, okay, it's okay,
freaking
it's okay. Nine, it's okay. It's done. I have done it,
Uh,
so we can
I
progress
was
the
trying to
conversation. I need a
change
moderator. I
I
need a
was trying to,
moderator. Okay,
yeah,
let's
I
go.
want to change the topic, because of this heating discussion.
Exactly.
But look,
it's
the
a good
problem.
discussion, but he kept derailing. I really think it's important for us as Africans or whoever to have this conversation respectfully.
I do agree. That is why from next week I need a moderator. Um,
Uh, my
I'd
question
love
was
to moderate for you. I run panels as well. You're always welcome into my space, both of you. Sorry, Mystic.
no problem, no problem. Look, I'm about to go, even though. Look, I would just try to ask you, host, and
I'm listening.
many of those who was lived, they said something about that also. Do you think that Afro-Asiatic is compatible to African, like Afro-Asiatic language is compatible to African language as like as
Is it like
foundation?
American and those languages?
no matter what is like, because 77 language exists, Afro-Asiatic language, so-called
Mhm.
Afro-Asiatic.
When you mean compatible, in what way do you mean?
Like I think the guy who live now, he says that we need some Afro-Asiatic, not that a lot of others colonizer. He said so. I don't know what he was intent to say, but is it like? Do you think this is like the it can be the foundation of African
Unity?
language?
Okay, I think when we talk about African unity, many people want to always say that we need a common language, and I think that's where you're heading. That we're talking about a common language for Africans. But the matter of the fact is, we don't need a common language. Okay, and we already have a common language, which is in many cases English and French. For those of us, so we can
No, no,
communicate across the panel with those languages, and still we haven't achieved what we want to achieve.
no, no.
So,
I want to Africans language, not like the colonizer
no,
language.
no,
I
but
want to
listen,
read all of it out.
hear my point. Hear my point. So now, for me, before, let's say it was impossible for me being a Ghanaian to talk to Ethiopians, right? And now, because of English, I'm able to do it. Okay, so now we have a common language. But then we find that we are still not achieving what we need to achieve because of the fact that the underlying problem is not being dealt with. And the thing is this: in any society, right, the majority of its citizens will not deal with other people. So for example, the majority of Ghanaians will not communicate with Ethiopians, only a select few. And that's where we have the term traders. Traders usually became, or translators became, the medium in which you could communicate with other tribes or nations. Okay, but the problem, what Africa need is a way to first and foremost, um, free trade between African countries, and to travel. That is easier to move within African borders than what it is now. It's more restricted. That it's easier for an African to come to Europe than to, let's say, for to travel from Ghana to Ethiopia. We have to fix those problems first before
Well,
we can speak to unity. I don't know if it answers your question, but
look, yeah, I think it kind of. But what I want to say is, you and me were communicating in English. It's because of the American imperialism.
it's true.
So, but then we are not like living from this so-called former empire or colonizer. Look, what I want to say is, if we are about to be African within African and to build on civilization, then we need a common language, African origin language, not just English or Arabic. Because if you rely on this language, you will never be free.
You know, I think this, and this is like a model from the United Nations. In many cases, when the United Nations delegates are speaking, they speak in the language they feel most comfortable with, or the language in which they can express themselves better in. So let's say you express yourself in Tigringa, where I have someone translate your Tigringa to me. Because if we even dare to put one language, one African language, as a unifying, as a hegemon or a lingua franca in African spaces, we're gonna create problems because we have a superiority complex or disease that we are suffering from already. So if Tigringa becomes the lingua franca for Africans, right, then all of a sudden people from Tigray feels like, oh, we are good, our language weighs more. But then rather create a space where it doesn't matter whether you speak Swahili, it doesn't matter where you speak Tigrinya, it doesn't matter where you speak Gachi, it doesn't matter where you speak Yoruba. You can still use your language and your matters will be heard. That is what we need.
Okay.
I hope that answers your question, because I think, yeah, no,
I
I know,
want.
I know. Sorry, Purple is saying yes, Swahili can, but the fact of the matter is that we shouldn't create a society in which one language becomes the lingua franca, but rather Yes, you can speak Swahili and I can catch a few phrases of your Swahili. The same way I'm not a French speaking person, but I can understand a few phrases in French and
No,
make.
no. I want to like, what if Swahili get declared every country of Africa should be a part of the institution to learn from the childhood to growth, like everyone learn the language,
Then what
and then
happens to
when
their own language then?
they can have their own language, like we are speaking English, they like we have our own language. I can speak more than three language now without
And
losing my language.
and that's what we are trying to do here. We are trying to actually create a more found or sound African identity in which every tribe must be able, a nation must be able to be sound within themselves first. That I am proud of being Tigrinya, I'm proud of being Ubuntu, I'm proud of being Yoruba, you know, and that's what that I find value within myself first. And when I come to public spaces, which is when we talk about the elite, it's just like a few hundred, like 100 people, you know. So we shouldn't let the how do you call it, the trajectory of a nation kill what is most important, and it is this: if I am a Yoruba speaking person, in most likely I'm going to speak to Yoruba people who are in my immediate surroundings. That's where I'm going to talk to them. So therefore, I have to learn and be fluent in language that is going to be spoken in my immediate area, not other languages. And it's not like I'm against Swahili or anything, but those who have the need to go to Kenya, to go to Zululand to speak, they need to have the qualification to communicate with the Zulu people, to the Kenyans, to the Tigrinya, to the Arabs, and so on. Those are the people. Whilst our people speak our own language, so we are sound and strong within
Can I ask you a
ourselves.
question?
Yes, do answer me a question.
Do you feel like the situation in I guess South Africa? I know it's, I don't want to say it's off topic, but I do feel like it kind of ties in, right? Is like they I feel like it has a Western influence, like a lot of countries are trying to mimic the United States, how they're dealing with immigrants right now, because Japan had a similar thing going on, especially with this thing where they were supposed to, I guess, allow some Nigerians to migrate, like it just seems like the whole world, even Dominican Republic with Haiti, you know what I mean? They just seem to be so influenced by this westernized way of seeing immigration, and I feel like what's going on in South Africa is a part of that. If you understand what I mean, if I'm making sense.
I know the situation. I think I hope. Yeah, that's what I'm starting. I thought I knew Purple was gonna jump in the moment because he's South African, but I was waiting for him because this is his field.
Oh,
But
hi. I'm not,
yeah, but
discriminating or anything, but I
no, no,
do
no,
want
no,
to
because no, he's
see how
South
y'all
African. Don't
feel.
worry, he can answer it perfect. But I'm gonna go first. But listen, the situation in South Africa, which is I think is funny to me, that if let's say South Africans were against immigration, let's say Nigerians, Ghanaians were bad in South Africa, okay, but Europeans have been living there, killing your people for centuries. You know, creating societies where they exclude you from those spaces. But yet again, you are allowing them to live within the states, like, oh, they are okay, they are white, whilst the other ones, because the reason why it's happening in South Africa is because Africans are the only people you can do harm to without consequences. You know, and African people know it, white people know it, everyone knows it. That's why it happens, because there's no any strong back in African nation that can back Africans wherever you go. But if there should be one African nation, mind you, China is a great example. Prior to, the people could bully China everywhere. Chinaman, you call them, names, and so on. Now no one speaks of China because the Chinese state have made it uh, um, um, a priority that Chinese people, no matter where you go, you are protected. Our influence is there. That's what Africans need. If Ghana was strong, South Africans won't dare to do what the hell the fuck they are doing. You know, Chinese people, America wages war, trade war on China all the time, but you don't see Americans in the mass doing what they are doing to Chinese people or Russians. Because they will fire back, and that's what it is. But I'm gonna leave it to Purpose to answer because that's his field.
South Africa is not, the people as a collective are not a bad people at all. We've lived in peace with different kinds of people, as you can see. We have Indians, we have coloureds, we have everybody around. And don't ask me why I left. Don't ask me that reason. I don't want to explain. Don't want to go into the details of it. Um, what I think for my analysis is the people that are doing this, the ones that are hurting other Africans, are the uneducated. It's like the FPS of South Africa. That's what we have.
Exactly.
That's what we have, right? Unfortunately, they're uneducated, they're violent, they want to impose themselves, their ideology on other people, and they want to look at another brother and harm another brother without any, or another sister without any cause. And the thing is, what I found out recently is, of course, please, this is very sensitive. The Western Cape, Cape Town, that whole bit. So they're pushing away the Africans and every other South African person there, slowly but surely. But of course, not in the real world. But it's getting foot slowly, and then they're bringing in white people and giving them citizenship, so that when the DA, when it's time to vote, they vote into the DA. We have a DA party called, it's only for only white people. Only white people are part of this political party. Of course, there are South Africans and Chinese, a Chinese man as well. So yeah, it's slowly starting. Let's wait until things boil up, and I don't know where I'll be in the world then. I don't know. But I don't wish to fully identify as South African. It's not something I'm proud of. It's very sad to see. You can't hate somebody that looks like you and accommodate
Yeah.
people that and that.
It reminds me, right? Not to speak over you. You ever seen that movie? And I hate to be whatever. I don't want to sound facetious or anything, but that movie Serafina, I always found it disturbing, right? How they unalived that. I think he was like an army man or security guard, but they didn't do nothing to those white tea people who were unaliving kids in those South African schools. And they treated them. That movie, I could never watch that a second time. It broke my spirit.
It's the same pattern and will continue going on, unfortunately. And there was recently on the news, sorry, it was on social media, a Chinese man who's South African. He's part of the DA party. He told the Africans that he's tired of seeing black people. South Africa is a joke. That's why I'm not living there anymore. It's a joke. How can a Chinese man tell you he's tired of seeing your people in your own country? Hi.
Yeah, and that's the thing. And I know this Nigerian guy put it beautifully. It's like African men do not protect Africanness. You know, in the same like you allow yourself to be disrespected. That's why sometimes the Muslims, I love them. You know, they will, unalive you on the spot just because you disrespected, somebody. You know, if Africans were a pint of that, we will be freer. We'll have more respect and we'll have more protection where we go. And I think it's about time, if we are going to inherit a certain behavior, it is that kind of, we don't allow disrespect. We don't turn the other cheek. That's why I hate Christian indoctrination, especially the one of turning the other cheek. you know because I don't feel like you should turn. If someone slaps you, you know what, slap them back. That's the how do you call it, the rhetoric that I preach. And I know there's Nigerian musicians that put it like, try Jesus, don't try me. Because I will fight back, or I will slap something. I don't know if anyone knows that music, because I love that song so much. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's kind of like how, like this, right? I feel like a lot of the stuff that Westernization has given to like its colonies, they're not even doing anymore. They don't. The average European is not a heavy Christian. You know what I mean? Like they've seen the error of their ways, and even they are pulling back from some of their old ways of thinking and doing things. And I think one of the things that Africans or even the diaspora can learn from other groups is, a Chinese doesn't like a Thai or a Korean or a Japanese. A Dominican doesn't like a Puerto Rican or a Mexican or a Cuban or a Venezuelan. A German doesn't like an Italian or a Polish or a British, right? But what they understand is if they put their differences aside and they're able to come together in terms of, political stability for their races, or economic stability, even though they might have disagreements from here and there, that is the bigger picture overall. And for a lot of people in the diaspora, including Africa, we just can't seem to get over that quote unquote tribalism, as they like to say it, right? And I think that that's where we have to start looking, is putting our differences aside and thinking, what is the big end goal here? If we're able to come together to make sure that we all have rights, we all have money, we're all able to eat and do things, or travel easily amongst each other's nations with no guardrails. We're all able to protect each other if an outside enemy was to come. that's where we need to start thinking bigger, thinking outside of ourselves, thinking outside of our tribes, our languages, our costumes, and finding some kind of common ground when it comes to just wanting the general well-being of all Africans, all people in the diaspora. That's what Pan-African was supposed to be about, but I feel like we're getting further and further away from that. Like,
Yeah, it is true. That's what it's supposed to be, and I think the Europeans or the Westernization ideology is working tirelessly in order for it to never happen. And France, for example, now is at a desperate situation where France now is at the pivotal moment where France has to act because France is losing its colonies. Where I would say these colonies are allowing themselves to fail, and if France can't hold on to their colonies, then they have to steal from others. So you can see now where Emmanuel Macron is going to other African nations and trying to bring them on board because he's losing their former colonies. So now he's trying to steal from the Brits. He's trying to steal from the Dutch, the Danes, and those people trying to bring them on board that France Afrique ideology, and which is Ghana, for example, is one of the countries that it is within our national security that Ibrahim Traoré or Burkina Faso do not fail. It is winning because if Ibrahim Traoré is toppled, you know, and what's gonna happen is what I call the Haiti effect. That if, those Sahel region will never see peace. Haiti was a nation that once humiliated France, way back then. I don't know, in the 1800s or something. And I'm paraphrasing here the dates. I don't know it exactly. But what happened was true. So France made it their clarion call that if they are able to topple the Haiti movement or the Haiti togetherness, they will make sure it never see peace. So what you see now, they flood the island with guns. They are amongst the most armed people on the planet, but yet again you see them to be, when it comes to violent, and which is one thing that is funny about gangs and people who find themselves bearing arms. It's like when you bear arms, right, you feel like you are more protected, but in retrospect you are amongst the people who is more you are more likely to be in a violent situation because you carry a weapon that is able to put you into that situation. But with that said, and if anyone don't have anything to say, let's move on to the next question. Um, okay, so then
Well, it's just a small
okay,
statement.
okay, stop, small statement. Just do.
It's not really important. Somebody, a friend of mine told me Cape Town looks more European than Europe itself.
Yeah, it's true, and the situation with South Africa, it's funny that South Africa will never be free if you have your enemies within your countries. It's like me being intruded. You have an intruder in your home and you allow them to stay in your house. Where you have your kids around, you have your wife, you have your husband, you have your grandmother around. Why are you allowing them to stay? And I always say this: Nelson Mandela's greatest failure was not kicking out the white people. That one I will ever say it. Mandela is great, but his greatest failure was not pushing to kick out the white people. Because the reason why he should have kicked them out is because they were not willing to live in unison with the black people. You
he
know.
he he normalized them. He normalized them. Like
Exactly.
the
Exactly.
the colony of South Africa becomes like part of their aspect of life, like a part, like in nature. He makes like more normalized.
That
You
is
know,
true.
I don't call him as he's a very good man in history. I think he's the biggest failure man ever lived. Even though he was I don't believe even he was in prison 27 years. I don't believe that.
No, no, that's a topic for another
Look,
day.
look, look.
But let's greet Aphrodisian to the panel. Good morning, good afternoon to you, and good evening to you, Aphrodisian.
Greetings, greetings, greetings.
How do you
Good
want to
good
participate
afternoon.
with live
Yeah,
today?
oh,
thank you. It's 3 p.m., 3:30 p.m. where I am. I'm in France. Uh, Blessings to you all. Greetings. Very interesting, very educative. Thank you very much for all your interventions. So to go on the questions on the prompt, can people consume Western culture without losing identity? That should be a serious goal, actually. But for now, with the Christian software, it's quite difficult with the European schools. It's almost impossible with the Westernized architecture. It is quite out of sight. So, for the second question, can society modernize without becoming Westernized? Actually, there is a big confusion between modernization and Westernization, and that's a very serious question, a very critical question that you're asking here, because actually we need to redefine what people call development. We need to go maybe into something people tend to call Afrofuturism or something like that. So we have to define the future on our own terms, actually. That's what I think. So for the second question, for now, it's no, but hopefully later it's going to be yes. For the third question, can
Hold on
education
for
ever
me.
be?
Before, because we are at the
Yeah, go
second
ahead.
question now, so
Go ahead. Go
so
ahead.
let's all answer the second question before we move on,
Okay,
because
sure,
we are
sure.
all at the second question. So we've all heard your how to say perspective on the second question. What about anyone on the panel? If you want to tackle the second question on the panel, can a society modernize without becoming westernized?
Should I develop or do I let people answer?
I think
Look,
someone's
I
I
gonna
think
can.
start.
that
Uh,
I'll go after everybody.
Okay,
you
Misty.
can speak. You can speak if you want. 9 to 1. I mean, I don't want to interrupt you.
Oh no, I'll be very quick. I just feel like we can modernize on our own terms. Like we can I do like, the technological advancement and stuff, you know what I mean? Like we can do things. Somebody said it earlier, Afrofuturism. That's like a perfect term for it. Like we can do modernize, right? But we can still put our own flex on it or our own culture on it. You know what I mean? We just don't have to do things the Western way all the time. We can have our own apps. We can have our own technological advancement. We've been doing it since the beginning of time. Even the diasporans have brought their greatness from the continent to their new lands that they had to grow up and assimilate into. You know what I mean? Like the telephone, you know what I mean? The computer, all of these different inventions came from us, our bloodline, our diaspora. So I feel like there's nothing that can stop us. Nothing can get in our way. Even people in villages, I see the videos all the time here on TikTok. They're making amazing things with their hands and limited resources, incredible things that people here are not doing. They rather do TikTok videos in the street than take some time to build a car from scrap metal. You know what I mean? So I just feel like we have the brain for it. We have the framework for it, and anything is possible. This next generation is going to be doing beautiful things.
Yeah. Look, I agree mostly with her. Here's the thing. We can see example Japan. Japan is even though it was advanced before even the westernized technology entered into this country, Japan is still is not like intact into westernized. Everything about Japan is become more global. Even though the technology they use from the Westerners and like integrated into their own society, they become very strong as inside within the Japanese society. So what I want to say is that we can have any kind of Western technology, but it have to be faction within own society, within own people. Like for example, many African country they want to build asphalt, asphalt road, and they instead of employing their own people, they go to Japan to China.
imagine building like 200 miles by Japan, even though you can't do it. That's not even difficult to engineering the asphalt roads, building tunnels, so on. So what I want to say, you can use that technology, or you can even use by your own technology within that your own society without having your foreman or your manager a white man from anywhere. You can like integrated the technology, the Western technology, into your own society by your own society to function in the first place.
I understand what you're saying, and I do agree with you, plentiful. And but I will answer the question, in this way: is this a society can't modernize? But when we sometimes we speak of modernization, that term has been hijacked by Westerners or whitey people. So when we think of modernization, we see it in terms of equivalent to what Europeans do have. Okay, I for one think African societies across the globe are one of the most pioneers of and drive culture, that brings forth new trend, new style, new everything, which becomes the global hegemon of what then people copy. That people, when they tap out of the new style, what let's say if it is a nene dance, anyone knows that nene dance. So when it's a new dance on TikTok, now everyone have finished dancing the nene dance, so now everyone is waiting for what the black people gonna do next. Now they did the nene, now we have to wait for them to create something new for us to jump on. So yes, we Africans find themselves to be the pioneers of such. But the thing that we fail to acknowledge, that in spite that we are amongst the people where people copy the most, we don't copy ourselves. And it's one thing that is very intriguing to me, that if you want to achieve something, let's say you want to build missiles, roads, okay, China has done it, America have done it, that style of road. See what they are doing, copy and do the same thing. China became a superpower not because China invented something new. No, okay, I see America building warships. Okay, we're gonna find a lucrative way to buy that warship. Okay, then we bought that warship, we dismantle it. Now, our engineers, I want you to build me that warship. Now, Chinese engineers are able to replicate American warships. Okay, now build a standalone, an independent warship without replicating what you learn. So you take what you learn and build something that is gonna benefit the Chinese people, the Chinese military, and that's where you have it. But I find myself that African people don't copy in that regard. Things that usually will aid us, and the things that we do copy are usually amongst the things that are actually more detrimental to our society. And it comes of the terms of the way we farm. I see myself, and I like farming research and stuff. So I see myself watching people farming. Let's say in Ghana, for example, but they are farming in ways where people would do in Europe. Because our climate is different, and we have abundance of sun, but they are farming in ways that you would do in Europe, but not what our ancestors used to do. And that's that. But when we do modernize, we modernize in the wrong field, rather to modernize or actually maintain. And I think Africans are in desperate need of maintenance rather than modernization. And I'm gonna leave it to that. I don't know if Purpose wanted to say something.
Well, I could agree, and I definitely do agree. We need to learn to appreciate our own version of products, our own version of things, and it's okay it to be different, and it's okay. We don't have to look up to a particular standard, which is not the real standard anyway. We don't want to look like everybody else. Nobody wants. You don't want to look like me when you're dressed up. Nobody wants. I don't want to look like you when I'm dressed up. I think the mentality in itself in Africa perhaps should be about growth. them not copying what the other people have done, I don't quite agree a little bit, because I don't think we should copy them. I don't think anything that is ours should look like theirs. And of course, they copy what we do, and everything that they have is a copy of ours. We drew the blueprint, the blueprint of everything, and they kind of built it up. It's like you lay the foundation of a house, and then they put the house on top. They lay the building on top, pretty much. So we are the blueprint of everything, and we create things, but we need to just maybe develop a little bit further. Maybe is what we need, and because we can't stop creating. We are originally creating and creating and creating, and people are copying from it. So I think we need just to grow what we're creating, and that's all.
I know you wanted to say something regarding that, Aphrodisian, or we should move on.
Yeah, just to add on what I said earlier, actually, and I put it in the chat a little bit. Let's be careful not confusing futurism, modernization, and mechanization, because actually, oftentimes, that's what is kind of targeted, or that is what is put in the forefront. And actually, this mechanization in let's say, maybe not the end game, but close to that. There is a lot of things that has to do with transhumanism, actually. And because actually, there are so many questions that come across, and that kind of telescope, is that are that whenever you talk about humanity, most of the time people think about the Western world. Whenever you talk about development, people think about the Western way. Whenever you think about God and everything, people think about the Western God, or Western and Eastern God. But everything that is out of this frame would be the devil or something like that. So voodoo or anything else. And the case of Haiti is very interesting, because they even go as far as saying that Haiti made a contract with the devil to actually beat the Europeans. So and Napoleon and his armies. So let's be careful about the fact that they really colonized pretty much the image of God, the image of modernity, the image of technology, and so on and so forth. And then we really have to go our way. Maybe to give an example, do I think better that the Chinese did. For example, when you go in Shanghai, in China, which is a big city of China, they have the old Shanghai, and they have the modern Shanghai. So keeping the ancient and respecting it, protecting it, but at the same time, developing our ways. And I would add to that, and even in Japan, you can find it sometimes, but Japan is a lot of contradictions. Um, Also, something that we need to be careful about is really reconnecting, and not opposing our traditions and our goals for the future, whatever they are.
You said we shouldn't contradict our goals for the future.
Opposing, actually, because
Okay.
I see in panels, sometimes in French speaking panels, for example, sometimes people are now, because we're trying to decolonize from the Western view of things, to decolonize from the Western gods, the Eastern gods, and everything, and so much so that now some go to some kind of extreme, and they say, oh, there is only science, there is only technology, there are no mysteries, like there are no um uh, uh, no things that cannot be explained, or whatever, like there are no area where we still have to discover, where we still have to learn, or something, like space or whatever. So that's important. I think that we keep some kind of balance, and respect for always, but also some criticism. Let's say some how to say, pragmatism, or maybe criticism, because we definitely have to correct some things also into our ways. So yeah, that would be my take.
No, I do agree with you. And to summarize it, we are, as you said, and many people have said, we are in more desperate need of maintaining our ways than actually modernizing our ways, because, as I say, it might not be necessary to be modern in a sense, because we are what we are. Modernization is, in retrospect, destroying what is. But moving on to the third question: can education ever be neutral when it's imposed by a colonizer?
Who
Anyone want to?
starts?
Yeah, sure. If you do want to.
Okay, so talking about education, so yeah, neutral by the colonizer. No way. No freaking way, because actually that's the whole purpose. The whole purpose, when you look back, you see you had the military, you had the religious, and you had the businessman. They came along, and actually, everything we knew had to be denied, and then we had to be like reinstalled. Like they had to reinstall the whole system, like operating system of the African. Like for example, when you go in the Caribbeans, um, there are still former colonies that are department of France, like Martinique and Guadeloupe, for example, or continentally, in South America, like Guyana, and at the time, the black people used to be taught, like, or ancestors, the goals, the goals who, as far as we know, are white, but actually it was black people, learning this. So how they hijacked our brains, and that's really something important. Education, whether it's schools, or whether it's a religious school, because we also have this matter in our spaces, religious schools, whether it's Christian schools or Muslim schools, or whatever school, actually, because now we have Turkish coming to Africa, we have Chinese coming to Africa. So we need to be very careful about uh, what we want to put in our people's minds, and um, keeping the sovereignty at all costs, actually.
I do agree with you, with what you're saying. Education is one of the problematic aspect of African society. With that said, that our greatest failure is in the way that we educate our children. That even to this day, 70 years after independence for subsidiary Ghana and other nation, or 69, you find them learn the same things people learned 70 years ago, 80 years ago. And I say to myself, to what effect, to what end? 2 years ago, there was this guy, and I've said this before, were sharing pamphlets in the streets of Accra in Ghana, where he was saying, "Oh yeah, this is my school. We opened this." Da, 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 da. And he was like sharing his pamphlets, trying to recruit people. And so he came to me and approached me, and I asked him a question. In your school, are women or girls required to shave their hair? And he said yes. Then I asked him why. Then he looked at me like as if I'm asking him a question that is blasphemous. So then I asked him why. Then he couldn't answer. And I told him, if you, as a teacher or a promoter of your school, is doing something that you can explain to me as a parent, a brother, why you do it, then I don't want to come to your school. So in order for me to enlist someone into your school, I need to understand why you think it's necessary for someone to shave their hair to attend the school. So he couldn't answer me. So then I gave back his pamphlets and he was shocked. And I told him, listen, I'm at a point in my life where who it is, where it is, when it comes to anti-colonial struggle, I always have a stomach for it. I could be in church at a wedding, you know what? And I can be in a mosque, I can be in a hospital, I can be in a car. If that rhetoric is present, I'm gonna have that debate you. A lot of how do you call it? Jehovah's Witnesses do come to the houses, back, and I always tell them if they say something that I find to be colonial, I tell them, and all of a sudden they run away. But but with that said, education is one thing that has failed many African society. And for me, as I say, I want to ban a lot of schools, for example, in the continent of Africa and Ghana in particular, because we have enough educated people, but we are educated to do stupid things only. We do nothing that is benefactory to our people. Okay, we don't learn carpentry, which is we are desperate need electricians and engineers and things that are necessary for the nation to thrive. We don't teach them. We teach them William Shakespeare. We teach them what do you call it? The antique English revolutions and French Revolution. Then you ask yourself, when a Ghanaian is hungry, how can William Shakespeare on learning to speak Old English help you? And these are the things that, and I think is very tiresome to know that our elders can't even think beyond what their nose can reach. That nah, it is bad for my future children to not know how to grow corn, how to purify water, how to hunt. These things are necessary for survival of a society. So if we are thinking of passing on to the new generation something, a token to the new generation, and then you ask an African father, African elder, what have you passed on to the next generation? You will find that they will have nothing to say. Probably they will say they've passed on Jesus Christ to them, but nothing on the long line. I've taught my children how to hunt. I've taught my children how to farm. I've taught my children hard work and so on. And that is the problem, that we leave our education to outsiders, that we neglect to educate our children in what is necessary for them. The same way at a young age you teach your children why it's wrong to stick your fingers in the power socket, the power outlet for many Americans and other people out there. Why it's wrong for your children to be picking things and putting it in their mouth. You teach them at a young age, but when it comes to the general survival of post-colonial nations, we tend to lack to educate our children on the basic principle of survival. And that is why African nations keep being toppled and conquered over and over again, because the basis of survival is not being taught. Farming, okay, is one. Any nation needs agriculture. Food, um, water, and good health are the basic needs in order to sustain a society. And in many cases, security is one thing that you, on top of those are the four things that I would say that a nation needs to survive. Other than that, that nation is weak, and we find our African nations are weak. We are weak in agriculture, we are weak in education, we are weak in military might, we are weak in all aspects of life. The only place where an African say we are good at is having a long penis. That is the only place an African can beat his chest and say this is one thing we are great at. Or the woman saying we have big behinds. That's all. But when it comes to the things that matters, we can't say we are great farmers, we are great fishermen, we are great architects. These are the indoctrinations that are necessary to feed into the minds of the young, you know rather than, you see, in Ghana, for example, if you see a young child not going to school, or not speaking tongues, all of a sudden that child has an accomplished life. But when you see a child being able to recite verses in the Bible and speak tongues or the Quran, all of a sudden that child is an accomplished child. But a child that knows how to farm, that can put food on your table, that child is a failure. And that is the mentality we have to decolonize from our parents. And I tell my people, I tell my mother, I tell my grandfather, and people hate me for it. But yet again, I still do it, because I think it is worth it to tell the elders that they are wrong, even though in our culture it's frowned upon to tell an elder he's wrong or she's wrong or a liar. But I do those things because I think the what is possible to achieve outweighs these norms. That is why I keep, and I'm stubborn, and I still do, and I do tell them you are wrong, and so on. So moving on to, unless Nine has something to say. I know I've been monologuing for a while. Well, then let's tackle the final question. I think it will be the end of, we have crossed the 3 hour mark of this live. But it's like, is this: what's one Western product or idea you can't live without? Purpose, if you're there.
I actually want to sell my TV. I can't stand these TVs. Um, if I didn't use it for my video game sometimes to kick off time, I don't need it. I don't use it. I think it's really what it produces is just confusion. Of course, the movies sometimes are nice, but maybe you can watch that on a laptop or whatever. But when there's a TV in the house, there's a news there, and the news, we know what it is. We know it's not a good thing. So all these bits and pieces. So the TV really, I think it should be released from all households because there's just so many different weird programs that are being fed to the masses today. And when these people are consuming this information or these shows that are coming on the TV, people are being programmed in the head, obviously, because what's come on the TV is a program, and it just feeds the matrix and it keeps going and going. So TVs definitely should be kicked out of every household.
Well, yeah, I do. Well, I don't know if I do agree, but I understand the point in which it makes people stupid, as they say. They are brain rot is the new term for it. It creates brain rot. I don't know if you're there, 91. I think she's busy doing something. But yeah, I for one, I don't think I have any Western ideology that I can't live without. You know, I'm at a point in life where, if needs be, I'm willing to do away with all Western ideologies. That I'll hold nothing. That I can go back to what, let's say, how my grandfathers live, because I don't see any benefit to any Western ideology as the life that I live in, because what I have is more progressive than the Western ideology. That is why I'm able to say yes, I can do away with all Western ideologies. I don't know if the same thing with the Zulu people, but
Well, those that are still living the traditional way, the normal way of being Zulu, because there's now modern Zulus with their baddies that are doing everything possible in this world, doing the crazy stuff. So yeah, I mean, if I personally, I'll give you an example. One time when I was at university, I stopped going to university for 6 months because I had to volunteer. I took time to volunteer and help out kids, and this took me out in the village. I was living in a village for these 6 months. My life felt rich. I'll tell you for a fact. I was living in a rural area. I left and just was living among the locals, fetching water from a well and going to school to teach the children in the morning. And then later in the day, I would go to the hospital to help out with the registry of the patients. It was a really an amazing 6 months for me. And it taught me a lot about myself and about life and about the simple things. And that's why I appreciate both lives. And I don't know if it were up to me what I would want, or on a self-sustaining basis, perhaps to live in like in a rural country by myself. That would be actually very nice as well. Come to think of it, honestly, if I didn't need anything, if I just would do a checklist and say I don't need this, I don't need that, I'm good. I can live and away from everybody anyway, away from the people as a collective.
yeah, I do agree with you on that statement, and It's something that I'm actually aligning my life in order to achieve to achieve that, to live as simple as possible. It's your house and your farm and your chickens. That's all that I want to do. But people, it's been 3 hours and we've been streaming both on YouTube and on TikTok. And those of you who are just joining, we do this every Sunday, and you are free to pitch me topics that you think are necessary to be spoken about or we should talk about. And we will create a segment around that topic, but you are always required to join so that you can also bring your unique experiences so that we can learn from each other. We do disagree from time to time, but it doesn't mean we are not friends. We are friends, and the end game is to deconstruct from this hideous ideology as Westernization because it is a plague that plagues everybody, whether you like it or not. So we should be united in all fronts in order to achieve a common goal. With that said, everyone that liked, shared, favorited, and so on, and participated, of course, purpose to you, always delight to have you on the panel. 91, you've been the first time you are here and you've graced your panel. You've been very productive, and I hope to see you next week. Hopefully, we can have a live next week, same time, same place, and it's with the same people. And as you say, you offer to be a moderator, and it'd be nice to have a moderator that can help moderate, so we can grow as a people and yeah, as a community, and we can learn from each other. So, with that said, if no one has anything else to say, bye bye for now.
Well, cheers. I have a topic to pitch. I think I'll leave you a message about the topic.
Do so.
Yo.
Okay, people. Bye bye. And bye bye to YouTube and everyone that liked and commented on YouTube too. Okay.